Well, there goes the day. Whoa. I've been battling this this glump in the throat thing for the past hour. Been trying to gargle it away. I'm trying to talk it out, sing it out, speak it out, and yet just when I'm trying to say neighborhood comes back comes back and bites me in the gullet. Ladies and gentlemen, let's try that again. Ooh, you can see my eyes getting all. There goes the neighborhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome live on this Saturday, February 22nd, 2025, to the 978th edition of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. All of you out there watching for yet another, and we have had 977 of these, another episode of the program. My darling and adorable wife cannot be with us. She is traveling and being with her family. So I'm here by my lonesome. Except, of course, I do have Pooey. And I have, I couldn't do it without potato. And in honor of my wonderful wife, two important items. We do have the flying chicken. All right, this time try flying. Okay, you're a chicken, you should fly. Here we go. Oh, you can barely see that. It was like a blur. Yeah, no. All right, so he might fly later. It's the morning. And we have the sticky sloth toys. You're supposed to fling these. Whee! I guess the underpants are part of the sticky part, as they are on me. So you're supposed to fling these to the wall, and then if they're working, they take a long while to climb down bit by bit from the wall. So we're going to give them a good heave, and we're going to see how they do. Okay, sloth number one. Here we go. Oh my. Oh boy, look at that. And then sloth number two, he feels like he's lost his mucilage. We're going to try it. Yeah. Oh, well. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. But anyway, we'll be tracking the sloth progress as the program continues. But not only do I have potato and pooey and chicken and sloths with us in the neighborhood, and all of you, of course, watching at home on Facebook, or maybe you're watching this later on davesgoneby.com. We do have coming up a special, did you hear me burp there? Coming up a special guest in the neighborhood, a returnee, a visitor who was on this program several years ago and was wonderful to have him, a writer named Joel Samberg. Now, Joel is, I don't know if he's related to Andy Samberg. I never asked about that. But what I do know is that he's written a couple of books, and his latest is called Jackie Jester. And it's about this old-time comedy. Oh, something just fell. Comedy novelty music writer and songwriter and performer who he's on the cusp sometimes of making the big time, of having a certain level of higher recognition and getting more gigs and getting record albums, and various reasons, bad luck and his own personality and problems keep him from, achieving those levels. Well, Jackie Jester is a thinly veiled, very semi-biographical novel about Joel Samberg's actual real-life grandpa, who was, I'll give you a hint. I have a sad story to tell you. It may hurt your feelings a bit. Last night when I walked into my bathroom, I stepped in a song written by Benny Bell. That Benny Bell, the guy who created shaving cream, that honestly became a novelty record sensation, and apart from Fish Heads, maybe the best known, most iconic song ever played and played and played and played on the Dr. Demento radio show. So Benny Bell also did dozens and dozens and dozens of other songs, a lot of them novelty, dirty in the sense that they were like PG and hinted at PG-13, and some of them clean and cute. And he also did some like Mickey Katzy klezmery records and Yiddish records that were kind of basic and straight. He had a really cool band. So Benny Bell was this real guy. His name was Benjamin Samberg. Used Benny Bell as his professional moniker, if you will, who never caught the big break. He was recording in the 40s and 50s, his heyday, got a bunch of records made, sold things, in the black, what do you call them, those gray beige envelope record things and so forth. And really wasn't until the Dr. Demento show that he had his rekindling of interest and that people, young and old, discovered this song from like the 1950s, Shaving Cream, and a few others by him. And they were like, oh my God, and Benny Bell's still alive. And what? So he would go on tour briefly with the Dr. Demento show when Demento was doing one-off things at like the Bottom Line with Weird Al Yankovic and Bobby Boris Pickett and Tiny Tim. And there was Benny Bell, who was already kind of old and senescent. I saw him at one of those concerts that Demento was doing. He was kind of presenting these classic novelty nutso artists from back in the day. And Bell was loving that he was back in the spotlight. He loved that he had an audience. He loved he could sing. He needed to read them off notes and pieces of paper that his wife was handing to him to make sure, he remembered the lyrics and so forth. This was not a man who was going to go on the pop charts and appear at halftime during the Super Bowl show. But it was a lovely reminder. Did he get rich at that point? Did everything turn around for him? No. He lived a quiet little life and then passed on, but he is remembered and in a certain way beloved. And his grandson, kind of skipped a generation, but his grandson, Joel, reveled in the fact that his grandpa was such an unusual figure, such a creative person, such a comical person who reveled in novelty and silly jokes and double entendres and dirty jokes. So Joel wrote a biography of his grandfather, Benny Bell, called Grandpa Had a Long One, which was one of the punny kind of hint, hint, wink, wink titles of Bell's songs. And you can hear a bunch of them if you go to archive.org, and there's a few on YouTube as well. But Joel was fascinated by this character that he remembered growing up and just seeing, when the family was on vacation in Florida, and who was this kind of, old man who went from being kind of grim and depressed and frustrated to like, I have an idea for a song. I have an idea for getting the band together. That kind of, brio mixed with ingrained Jewish depressiveness. And he wrote this very readable biography, and we had Joel on the show back then when his memoir of his grandpa was published. Well, as I said, Joel has kept writing. He's a professional writer and editor. He writes a lot of different pieces and other kinds of things. He even wrote a biography of Karen Carpenter, which, right, the singer, not really a songwriter. I don't know if she co-wrote with Richard anything, but the skeletal anorexic lead voice of the duo, the Carpenters. So he wrote a bio of her, wrote a couple of other books, and now, as I said, his latest book, Joel Samberg's, is called Jackie Jester. That's the lead character of his book, based on Benny Bell, and we are going to be delighted to have Joel back in the neighborhood with us, talking to, speaking of Jews, the one, the only Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Rabbi Sol, you know him, you love him. Some people could live without him, but I can't. He was on our very first episode of this program that we did on radio, on Long Island Radio, all those years ago. And he has been with us ever since. So not every episode, but he is our most frequent reappearer. He does rabbinical reflections for us, which are his thoughts on the world at large and on Judaism in particular. He also does most of our interviews at this point. So I think last time I was the one who got to interview Joel. Now we get the one, the only Rabbi Sol chatting with Joel Samberg in the neighborhood. That's about a little less than an hour from now, coming up on Dave's Gone By. What else is we gonna do? What else is we gonna do on the program today? Which, by the way, we're calling Playing Again, Samberg. Huh? Huh? I thought of that with this brain. Playing Again, Samberg. Also, we'll have Greeley Times, which is based on a weekly article in the Greeley Tribune newspaper in northern Colorado, where the phone calls that come into police dispatch from people who are worried about something weird going on in their neighborhood in Johnstown and Evans and Greeley, not quite Fort Collins. It's not all of northern Colorado, more the Greeley area. But the police have this blotter, and the phone calls come in, not crank phone calls, not fake. So the serious ones are serious and they send a cop. But the weirder ones, the funnier ones, sometimes they still send a cop, but the newspaper gets that as public information. And they do a story every week in the Greeley Tribune. I do have a copy of the of an issue from a few years ago that friends of mine sent me, Wendy and Fred, out there in Greeley, Colorado. But I know, this is a real paper. And so, yeah, the data, the information, the names, and the actual addresses are stripped from these phone calls, but the information is there. It goes from the blotter onto the pages of the Greeley Tribune. We read that every week, and we try and bring you the funniest ones in a segment called Greeley Times. It's kind of tough to do that particular segment without my beloved Mrs. here to help me, but she is here in spirit. And then, let's see, we have story time. So, this began many years ago now when I found a rather odd children's book in a gas station auto repair place. And it wasn't just like a highlights magazine, and it wasn't just, Dr. Seuss or Humpty Dumpty thing. This was a pre-young adult novel all about a cow for Hansel. And the whole book, and we're talking about like a 130-page book here, about a little boy in pre-World War World War One. This is pre-Weimar Germany. Literally on the cover of the book is a photo of a drawing of a young boy in lederhosen, and he works his fingers to the bone as a farmer with his family just so he can buy his family a cow. And we read week after week after week, a cow for Hansel. And it just became a cool thing. So we still very often do story time. We don't generally do books of that length. Although Spock Messiah is on my shelf. The Star Trek based not even fan fiction, this is before fan fiction. This was official Star Trek fiction book called Spock Messiah. I found the copy in one of those take 'em, bring 'em book hutches. So we may read that at some point, but not today. Today, we're going to go with something else because it's been such a lousy year so far. And I'm not talking just politically, whatever side of the political spectrum you're on. It isn't just the fear and uncertainty that's gripping all of us in terms of everything, but we had personal awfulness, familial in my particular life, and the weather. I love to talk about the weather, and it's nice and sunny today for the first friggin' time since what, November? My God. We have flurries again. Yesterday has been cold and damp as anything. We're in northern Maryland, like northern Baltimore. And it's just like what is this? When we moved to Baltimore from Colorado, we assumed, well, one of the positive things about leaving these beautiful mountains and the fresher air and all of this is, well, we'll be near Inner Harbor, we'll be near some water, we'll be closer to the East Coast, it will be on the East Coast, and it's a little southerly, not as south as Colorado in terms of down the United States map, but lower than New York, which is where I grew up and spent most of my life. So I'm figuring, okay, so summers will be a little bit warmer, probably just as humid, not more humid, but a degree warmer on those hot days. But you would figure winter would be more temperate with less snow, with less this, and less cold, blasting Arctic friggin' 30-mile-an-hour winds. Where the hell is this coming from in Maryland, which is sort of the South? I mean, there's a slave a former one, it's not still, a slave plantation like 3 miles from where we live, man. How are we getting weather where we had 6 feet, 6 inches of snow more a few weeks ago, and just these gusts, these weather patterns? If it's global warming, why isn't it warmer? And if it's climate change, jeepers creeps, how low down is Florida going to start getting like foot or 5 foot snowstorms and things? Are you gonna have to literally go down to Cuba, and even Cuba, you've got to start bringing like a thermal heater next to you on those cold August days. It's like amazing. So it's been a year. It has been a friggin' year. So why not, for story time? And I haven't read this, so I'm going to read this together with you. Have a gloomy book called Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom by Lorio Metz with pictures by Matt Phelan. So yeah, so if you're feeling down and dark and upset about everything, if you're overwhelmed and if you just don't know what the rest of the year is going to bring because it's already brought so much fun, Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom on StoryTime on Dave's Gone By today with me and you. Plus, what else are we going to do? We're going to have probably, because my feet are cold at the moment, but if I feel like taking my socks off, we just might do Bunion Watch. It's exactly what it sounds like. If you've never seen this program, I'm going to take my sock off and pull my foot up to the camera so you can marvel at, worship, perhaps mentally kiss the giant bunions on my feet. This was not a segment that we did on our very first episode of the show. This was certainly not on radio. This is a segment that started about 2.5 years ago when I was teaching for the first time in Maryland. And I had my first week of classes, and I wore new sneakers that I thought I had broken in, and they broke me because I was on my feet all day. I had like 4 classes in a day. And it was rubbing not, and I stress this, not actually on my bunion, but on the big toe that contains my bunion on the side. And oh my God, was that bad. I mean, I was just raw and bleeding, and it hurt for like 2 weeks. Even with a Band-Aid on it, it just got rubbed raw. So since this show is all about me, the warts, bunions, and all, I thought, why not share? Why not show my beloved, adoring public, such as it is, say, I may look happy, I may look all smiley and friendly today, but I'm feeling discomfort way lower down because of this aching, rubbed, raw thing on my foot above near my bunion thing. Let me show you my bunions. And this became Bunion Watch. So we look at the size, shape, condition of my bunions. I have 2 of them, each one on a different foot, because otherwise I'd be. And you can look at them, see if they've changed color, if they've appreciably grown, if they've ever shrunk, if my hammer toe is getting worse. You, my beloved viewer, can decide when we do Bunion Watch. Speaking of disgusting, we'll also have our Colorado Limerick of the damned, my friends. And this is exactly what it says it is, kind of. Because my wife and I lived in Colorado for about 13 years, I got it into my head to write a terrible, dirty, naughty, risque poem about as many places in Colorado as I possibly could. So, of course, the challenge is to rhyme the name of the place 3 times within the 5-line poem. And I'm still doing them, got more than 300 of them. And today, on this episode of Dave's Gone By, we are going to Brick Center, Colorado. Yeah, we're at the point of is what this is a place. Even people who know Colorado would be like, what, where? Brick Center, Colorado. We'll give you a little bit of information about it just so that you feel the locale, so that you can place yourself in Brick Center, Colorado, while I'm reading this short, awful poem. Brick Center, Colorado, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And what else? What else we're going to do? We have, oh yeah, let's do this. And again, I kind of miss my wife helping me out with this, but something that we've been doing for a while to test my extemporaneous chops, if you will, because as I've mentioned many times, when I first started doing this program 22 years ago, the first several episodes were almost completely scripted. The show was just barely an hour long. And so over the week, I would write everything. I'm a pretty facile, quick, and I think clever writer. And except for a little bit of interstitial stuff here and there, everything was written down. That was kind of the point, because I am a writer. So I can phrase things exactly as I please, not waste words, not waste time, just get to the meat of things and do a whole bunch of segments in a 1-hour show. Of course, the way things just meld and morph and mix and change. Now I write virtually nothing down except the Colorado Limerick, and then I transcribe the Greeley Times things, and of course I read the books for StoryTime. So really, it's only the opposite. The only real thing is when Rabbi Sol and I collaborate on his rabbinical reflections, or I haven't done these in many weeks now, but A Wretched Pun of Destiny. These will be written out, but everything else, as you can probably tell, is just, it's a sea change in a way from the original conception of the show, which is what happens. I always tell my film students that when Seinfeld went on, right? Remember Seinfeld? Well, it was supposed to be a show about nothing, right? These friends, these neurotic New Yorker friends with opinions on everything, would get together in Jerry's apartment. Jerry would do a little stand-up spiel to open the show and do interstitial stand-up spiel. And in between, he and George and whoever else, it was conceived even without an Elaine. There was just these guys who were complaining and noting everything in that observational humor style. And he did this for 25 minutes. This was the show. It was not supposed to be a show. No hugging, no learning, no nothing. Just, why is this? Why is this? Oh, I don't know. But what if you do? And that's the show. Of course, over its ridiculously popular run, the whole thing morphed into being one of the most plot-heavy shows on TV. So they would make room for that little yappity yap back and forth about some issue, making fun of something, or the way people behave. It's like, 10-second rule. But really, at a point, they had 3 stories running concurrently. Sometimes a segment or a little scene would last 5 seconds just because they had to show Kramer doing this to move the story forward. Then they get back to the story, and they all, of course, climaxes at the end with something that ties everything together. So something that wasn't supposed to have really a plot at all, became a masterwork of interweaving and plugging and intersecting themes of these characters that took off in a plot that ended with Mulva. Right. So, yeah, just in that way, this show has morphed into this tight, incredibly anally constructed 1 hour radio program. I'm doing this segment, then this is 3 minutes, and it's 2.5 minutes. I've written that and written that. I've written the intro for this, and then bullet points. And eventually it just moved to like, hey, everybody, I'm here. It's Saturday morning. I got like 2.5, 3 hours. Let's do it. And I just do it. Whether the program has improved or, decreased in value owing to that decision, I don't know. I'm like everything else. I'm sure it's a little of both. I'm sure I would be prouder of individual episodes if I crafted them, if I had a writer's room of 2 or 3 other people helping me create like the perfect 57 minutes Dave's gone by. But at the same time, I would miss the moments of inspiration, the fun of being able to stretch out with a guest for more than 10, 15 minutes. So it just, you get the good, you take the good with the bad, as we say. You take the bloom with the gloom on Dave's Gone By. So what else do we want to talk about before we get to with what we got to get to in all these segments? I do still make some bullet point notes. Let's go off on something here. The big, of course, big news story of the week, not all the firings and then the blocked firings and then the Supreme Court challenged firings that the administration is trying to do. That's a thing. That's a thing. It's not Middle East stuff. It's not Ukraine stuff. But the New York Yankees, and I'm not per se a Yankee, I grew up a Met fan, but the New York Yankees have decided to strike down a 49-year-old ban on beards. Have you read this? That George Steinbrenner, back in the day, and I'm old enough now to remember George Steinbrenner as the owner of the Yankees. He instituted a thing, I guess, just for the sake of discipline and bringing back a certain kind of old-timey thing of the game, if you will. Said, no beards. You have a mustache, Reggie Jackson. You can wear a little bit of facial hair, but no manky kind of Sunday morning beards. I want you looking. They shave your head in the army, right? You can't have facial hair in the military. We're not quite like that here, but I want clean-shaven guys getting up there. I don't want, when you're running to second base, when you're trying to steal a base, I don't want wind shear or when you're going against the wind, a millisecond of time to be wasted because the wind is hitting your beard and making you go just this much slower so that you miss the base. No, you have to just go in there, clean here, and Reggie, you better hit some home runs because I know your mustache is costing us some third base steals. I know it. I just know it. Right? Silly, sort of, and it's a rather interesting time for the Yankees to make this out of the blue pronouncement of saying beards are okay. If you have a beard and you want to play for the New York Yankees, we will not stop you. We won't encourage you. We won't say that all the teammates should grow a beard so they all kind of look alike and have this great thing to talk about that builds camaraderie. No, we still prefer, if you would like to keep your face clean shaven and smooth as a baby's buttocks, that's fine. However, if you must have grizzle, if you lose your razor on the road when we're on the team bus and you don't get to shave before a game, it's all right. It's okay with us. We forgive you. You can even keep the beard the whole time. Just don't get like caught. Like don't let this part get caught in the helmet. Or if you have that chin strap, oh, that's gotta hurt. Oh, I'm just thinking now. If someone has a real sort of working on a Van Dyke or something bigger, and they put that batting helmet on, and this thing goes over here, and one of these, because come on, when you get even not to my age, but if you're a guy in your 20s and 30s, this is like pubes, right? This gets caught in the like, which will make you angrier and probably make you run a little faster and concentrate a little harder when you try and hit. But still, I didn't really read any of the stories on this or what prompted this? I mean, are the Yankees going after a particular slugger or pitcher who says, look, I have a beard. This is a deal breaker. I'm not going to shave my signature trademark beard that turns my wife on when we're in the bedroom together. And I don't care how much millions and millions ridiculous money you're paying me, the beard stays. And the Yankees say, well, oh, all right. I don't know. I don't know where this is coming from, or if this is in. It wouldn't be. I don't know if this is also a an answer back, a clap back to what's going on in other segments of society. Of now that we have the conservatives in power, they're saying, well, you can't do this, or we shouldn't do this, or what is this with extra different bathrooms for people who don't want to be men or women? It's like pick one, right? And all of this, like you can't do this, and you can't have drag queens doing this, and you can't have this at the Kennedy Center. And maybe as a response to this, the Yankees took away a personal freedom, personal expression rule. I don't know. I don't really feel strongly about it one way or another. Yeah, I mean, imagine if they took away the rule that teams had to wear uniforms. Suddenly you would have every player on the court. They would say, well, all have to wear the same color, but it doesn't have to be our uniform. We just all have to be linked by a color. But you can wear shorts, short sleeve. You can wear this. You can wear a tank. You can wear a tankini. You can wear a dashiki if that you run well in that. It would just be kind of cool actually. But no, that's a good point. Or even elementary schools and junior high schools and academies where children are asked to wear all the same thing, and of course they feel restricted. And of course, at that age, you feel like, oh my God, I've got to wear a tie, I've got to wear this and a skirt. Presumably, they're not wearing ties and skirt, the same people. But and everybody walking around like penguins looking the same. But of course, that's also part of the hey, we're all one team, we're all in this together. The rich, super rich person with the wealthy family that lives in a mansion down the road, their kid is wearing the exact same clean outfit as the person whose family eats like food stamps or welfare and is living in a very, very different situation. There's something to that. There really is. And especially in our gang culture. So I get the uniform thing, even though I would have bristled at it had when I was going to elementary school, private elementary, religious elementary school, they did. I mean, we had to wear yarmulke, the boys. We all wore yarmulkes in school. We did, right? But that was it. Otherwise, you came in dressed neatly, cleanly. I don't think we were allowed to wear shorts in the summer. I'm thinking not. I think I don't know. Might have, but I doubt it. I doubt it. I think they were strict in terms of being nicely fully dressed, but not. But you could wear shirt. You could wear a overall a polo shirt. You didn't have to wear a button down whatever. And the women, it wasn't an orthodox religious kind of school, so we had a lot of leeway in what we were allowed to wear. Didn't have a lot of leeway in what we were allowed to think, but that's a whole different story. So the Yankees, the beard thing, I say, let's give it a try. I mean, when I think the first ball player I can think of isn't even about a beard. It's about, remember Raleigh Fingers and that mustache that he had? He had that great sort of curly Q mustache. I don't think it impeded his pitching one bit, and it made him recognizable. It made me remember, aside from his name, Raleigh Fingers, made me remember Raleigh Fingers as opposed to these thousands and thousands of other ball players who've been playing in MLB since I was compos mentis about baseball. So him I remember, and some of the guys with longer hair and ponytails and all right, whatever. Anyway, let me know what you think about the whole hirsuteness that will now be overtaking pinstripes of the New York Yankees. You can always email me, davesgoneby@aol.com. Daves, Daves, like my name, davesgoneby@aol.com. Feel free also to check my Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2. It's Radio Dave and the number 2. And also my Instagram page, Dave Lefkowitz. You know what is my bloody Instagram thing? It's my name. I just don't know how I have it. And did I ever? Nope, still not. Still not. Oh well. Oh well. But we do have an Instagram page. Look for my name. It's all basically to promote this show. But if you want to write to me, davesgoneby@aol.com is the best way to do that. Well, it is 25 to 10 Eastern Time here in the neighborhood. You're watching the 978th episode of the program. We're calling it Play It Again, Samberg, because, of course, Joel Samberg will be our guest in the neighborhood in just a little while. But I think it's time to talk Colorado. So, as promised, I showed you the newspaper cover. So let's see if I remembered to bring, I don't know if I did. I think I forgot again nope. I forgot the theme music to Greeley Times, but it's okay. I'll use this. This is as appropriate as anything else. Thank you. Greeley Times, which is based on an actual column that is in the Greeley Tribune newspaper every single week, and we thank them so much. Got to get my glasses on for this. Woo-hoo-hoo. So these are real. Oh, and my wife is not here to do the ringing phone. Oh, well, we'll have to do it myself. Here we go. Oh, that was a little. This here is mostly deaf. Now this one. So here it is. A caller on 24th Street said he was getting charged late fees even when paying his rent on time. And he said that whenever he goes to the office, they don't. This is great. So he's angry. He's saying his late fees. They're being mean to him. He's probably getting interest rates or whatever if he was late a time or two. So he said that whenever he goes to the office, they don't treat him well and tell him he complains too much. Yeah, but that's a wonderful HOA to be dealing with. It's like, guys, you're screwing me. You're taking money from me that you don't deserve to take. And he's like, oh, him again. Oh, the complainy guy again. Oh, yeah. That's I don't know what that is. I just thought I'd start with that one. Here's another one. Here's another phone call. I'll get it. Oh, it's on the poo phone. A person at the Greeley Police Department was wondering, this is not a police person, this is someone who went physically to the Greeley Police Department, and they were wondering if the department did anything for injured ducks. The department suggested calling Colorado Parks and Wildlife or a wildlife rehabilitation center. And, I can relate to this because whenever I see an injured duck limping along, I think, what'll I do? Yeah, what'll I want? Well. Next. Wow, the phone's ringing off the hook. I wonder if like in Peter Pan, if Captain Hook had a wife and she had to stop herself from saying that obvious cliche every time the phone rang. And it's like, honey, all day long the phone's been ringing off. Oh, sorry. A caller on 17th Avenue said that a man trying to sell drugs kept calling and leaving him mean messages. The caller clarified that the messages were not threatening, just mean. I know, when I get these calls, crack salesmen are just the worst. Am I right? The LSD phone, they're not bad. They're kind of mellow. Certainly the heroin people, they're just waiting for them. It's like, hi, I've got some good product. But the crack salesmen, they're just nasty as all get out. We're doing Greeley Times, ladies and gentlemen, and the phone calls are coming. A caller on 17th Avenue said, oh no, I just did that one. So I should wear these. Here we go. A caller at an unknown address said that her previous attorney's wife is hacking into her phone and taking out loans in her name. Okay. She suspects the attorney because her Facebook password was changed from an unknown location in Windsor, Colorado, and she also knew that the attorney was, quote, good with computers, unquote. Could be, could be. So, there you go. You hire your lawyers carefully, my friends, and vet their wives to, yeah, paying $400 an hour for their services. You don't want them taking out loans in your name. I know, I have nothing funny to say about this. I just thought that was pretty funny, but it wasn't. Okay, next. A caller on 14th Avenue said that a man dressed as a police officer came to his door carrying a hammer. Man walked up, rang the caller's doorbell, then left, which makes me kind of think, boom, 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 boom. If I had a hammer, I'd impersonate a cop. I'd hammer in your doorway, all over your porch. I'd hammer your flower pots. I'd hammer your mail slot. I'd hammer, then run away. Anyway, so this is, yeah. Well, what, you didn't know I was going to get musical about this? I'm the DJ, right? I am the MC of this program. So, of course, you might want to call me, wait for it, MC Hammer. Is this on? Is this on? Is it working? All right, let's do another phone call as part of Greeley Times. A caller at an unknown address said that a neighbor kept piling up dog poop from her yard and throwing it into his yard. The neighbor had been doing this for years. Years! But the caller had tried to disregard it because he thought she might have Alzheimer's. Let's unpack this. Let's talk about this one for a moment. Okay, so there's a caller who says that for whatever reason, the next door neighbor, it's not like the thing where some neighbor's dog isn't properly leashed or corralled and they come on your lawn and they do the thing, and then you're like, God darn, you could leash your dog, right? No, this is a situation where the next door neighbor has the animal. They take their animal's poo and throw it over into your yard. And remember, this is the key thing. This has been going on, quote, for years. Yeah. It's like a morning surprise. Oh, I wonder if the neighbor's okay. I haven't seen oh, there's the shit. Thank you. Yeah, right. So this has been going on for years. And now it's sort of like, they're finally getting tired of it. What is it about right now, if it's been going on for years, that you suddenly call the cops and he's like, yeah, no, honestly, since 2019. Yeah, before the pandemic. She flings it, I don't know if she has a catapult, whatever it is, and it just, lands near my rose bushes, which is good in a way, but not good in another way. And if it could, well, no, why? Oh, I didn't because, well, I'm thinking she's kind of Alzheimer-y, except for the fact that if it started years ago, I mean, how old was she then? How is she able to throw poo over the fence if she's got like the lumbago and she's 80 something and no brain left? I don't know. I do love that story, especially since I didn't get to mention this last time, but because I think it was earlier this week, or it might have been more than a week ago, but this happened, and I'm going to show. I think I have the photo to show. Where's my phone? I thought I brought my phone in. Maybe I did not. Oh, here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. So, I did take a picture. It's an awful picture because it was about 5:30 in the morning, or not even, and it's basically still mostly dark out. So, yeah. This is what we see from the backyard from my office at home. You're basically seeing my head in reflection. I'm not sure how to I'm trying to even deal with that. If when I tilt it downward, tilt it upward. If I tilt it up, there you go. You still don't see a damn thing. But see those gray little figures there? This is the first time since we've been living in Maryland now for about 2.5 years. One of the beauties, one of the lovely things about living here is not only do we get birds and squirrels and rabbits in the yard, and fortunately or unfortunately, we even have a groundhog living under our porch and foxes and things like that now and then. But it is beautiful and breathtaking to sometimes look out in your backyard and see a deer, right? It's awful to see them on the road because invariably you see half the deer in the neighborhood are dead when you're driving to anywhere, to Owings Mills or wherever. And there's always like a certain times of year you just see the carcass on the side of the road. Sometimes they cut the heads off to take them. It just is, God, why can't deer learn to stay in their lane? But to see them in the backyard is a beautiful thing. And I've seen families. I've seen like two or mommy, daddy, and 2 or 3 young baby deer. It's the most glorious, wonderful kind of start to your morning or end to your afternoon. But this time I actually saw 8 deer, a family of 8 loping along slowly, like walking around one by one in the back part of our backyard. Just kind of lumbering there, looking for food. It was winter. The snow had cleared because we had that big snowstorm and it finally melted away. So they could get to the ground. So they're nibbling, they're looking in the grass, they're eating one after another. Because I figured there'd be like 5 of them in total. But I counted, and there were literally 8 deer in the yard. And I bring this up apropos of this story because this is what the deer do. This is why our neighbor across the way has deer repellent. That's why they come to our yard, because our neighbors don't want them. This has happened so often now. The deer will come out, probably not even notice that I'm looking at them, because it's morning and I don't have my light on, I just have my computer on. I'm looking out the window. They turn towards the house, towards me, but I'm guessing not really even seeing me, or they're sensing some movement of me looking at them. And they just kind of nonchalantly turn their head, lift their tail, and crap. As if it's like nothing. As if they come into our yard, and I've talked about this before, they come into our yard basically like we're the Shell Station bathroom for them. And it's not like, why can't they just go all the way in the back, find a shrub, have a little decency and privacy, poo there, make a little mound like compost, and let the flowers grow, and we'll plant vegetables. No, it's near the bird feeder, and it's near a place where we gotta kind of walk when we go into the backyard. And I swear to you, like 3 days after the deer are clomping along and doing their thing, I go to the backyard and it's just nuggets everywhere. Because one deer doesn't just make like a little chocolate covered raisin sort of thing. It's this pile of black nuggets. And it's like one after another, after another, after another, because we don't have the gardeners in until early spring for obvious reasons. So I'm like, oh my, it's beautiful to watch these beautiful deer, but at the same time, it's like, God, you're looking at me. I'm looking at you, but I'm just looking at you, sipping my coffee and admiring your beauty. You are turning your head to me, raising your tail, and dropping plops that are killing my lawn, and that I'm going to slip on or ruin my shoe walking on. Thank you. Thank you, Bambi. Probably should call them Bumby. Oh, I missed that one. There we go. So, but I do not toss the deer poop into the yards of our neighbors on the left and right. That would not be fair. I don't know why they choose to use our yard as the toilet. I don't know if they're doing the same there, but I'm figuring They're not just stopping and then making more 1 minute later. They're coming into ours. Maybe I should take down the sign of that I have hanging on the tree of all species restroom. I wonder, once I put them up because I didn't want to discriminate against different kinds of animals. Alpacas only restroom versus the camel restroom. No, but I don't know. I think it's causing an issue. By the way, we're doing Greeley Times, of course. And one of the things that we like to do on this segment is, even though all these stories are from the Greeley Tribune and from Northern Colorado, we like to do one story a week that is from somewhere else. It's an odd, strange, funny story from another place. And today we have one that is so appropriate considering what I've just been talking about. So this story comes from Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. Pine Grove, PA, was reported by the Associated Press and a bunch of other places. This is a crowd. It was all about a meal at a firehouse. And it just happened like a week or two ago. A crowd of 150 people bellied up to the buffet before sitting down to eat, hear some live music, and participate in a raffle. Okay. All of this was at the 12th annual Taste of the Wild Outdoors held at the Pine Grove Hose, Hook, and Ladder Fire Company. Cute. All right. I do like Hose, Hook, and Ladder Fire Company. Something about starting with hose already kind of tickles me, if you know what I'm saying. I do. Oh, Pooey, why are you upside down? Oh, man. All the corn rushed to my head. Anyway, so a couple of vegetable dishes were offered and mostly ignored. The main courses included, because this was, remember, Taste of the Wild Outdoors, bear stew, stingray casserole, raccoon andouille, and rabbit kielbasi. You also had roasted gray squirrel, bobcat lo mein, wasn't he a comedian? Wild boar ham, and, of course, my personal favorite, coyote teriyaki on a stick. These are all part of the and this year's mystery meat, a child guessed that it was alligator. And I don't mind telling you, folks, that I try everything. I'm kind of omnivorous. So of those, I have eaten alligator in sausage. That was when we were, I think, in not New Orleans. I was somewhere. And I've eaten rabbit. I've actually cooked rabbit in a crock pot. And it was pretty good. I have not eaten bear. I wish I were eating squirrels because the squirrel is now again attacking our bird feeder after destroying the last three. I've never had raccoon, never had stingray in honor of the crocodile hunter, never had crocodile either. Not on the menu this year, but favorites from dinners past included snapping turtle salami, man, goose in sauerkraut. Well, I've had goose. Goose is like duck. It's great. And groundhog chili and chorizo, which I've heard gives you 6 more weeks of diarrhea. But the event raises money for youth activities and also encourages people to try different species instead of overhunting current ones. Still, no one asks the obvious question, is there anything here that isn't supposed to taste like chicken? Anywho, that is from real thing from Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, not that far from where we live. Maybe I'll go to the 13th annual and see what I can cook up off the road. A skunk brulee, if you will. What else would a wild thing, rat a la mode. Anyway, let's get back to one or two more Greeley times here on Dave's Gone By. A caller at 13th and 13th. So yes, we talk about the wonders, the Bermuda Triangle of Northern Colorado, 8th and 8th, which is 8th Street and 8th Avenue, the intersection there. This is the intersection of 13th and 13th. Oh boy, a caller there was complaining about traffic signs in the city. He said they needed reflective tape on the ones that say no right on red because people weren't paying attention. Yeah, and you know, maybe when the sun is hitting it at a certain angle, who knows? Fair enough. Fair enough. Wow, again, I was hoping that one would be funnier. Let me go on a different one because that one just a caller at Colorado Highway 257 and Weld County Road 54 reported driving southbound when something came out of a dump truck that shattered her driver's side window. Well, it is a dump truck. I guess something got dumped, at least not by a deer. There you go. And that, my friends, is Greeley Times for this Saturday morning, February 22nd, 2025, here on the Dave's Gone By show. Let's see, I did take the outro music for Greeley Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool.
It was not.
I'm sure that you agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
FBI.
Yippee, yippee, yi, 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 yippee, yippee, yippee.
Yes, indeed, my friends. It is a couple of minutes just until 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time here in the neighborhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, and just reminding you again that if you want to go back and hear some of these older episodes and things that I've talked about, like our very first show, or our 101st show, or our 701st show, basically everything we've ever done is collected, saved, and available to you for free at davesgoneby.com. DAVESGONEBY.com. This means you can just go on your computer at any moment, not while my live show is on, because they want you watching me, but you know, anytime you get a little hankering for being in the neighborhood, you can skim and surf. You can see who our guests were, and we've had some wonderful and sometimes famous guests on the program. Our comedy sketches, the rabbinical reflections, our old wretched puns of destiny, all these old segments. You can listen to entire episodes as well as portions of them. You can kind of zip through them because it's not happening live. You know, you can download them as MP3s or as video files or watch them streaming on your computer if you're afraid to download things. It's all good and it's all available at davesgoneby.com. Plus, we put our archives at archive.org. It's the same stuff. It's exactly the same videos, our interviews, and our complete episodes. We just like having it on this non-for-profit website, A, because it gives us another outlet in case our website goes down or has a problem, but also they're a really cool idea of just collecting art and literature and old radio shows and old music from, you know, from antiquity and sharing it in this great catch-all repository called archive.org, and we have a channel there. We also have a channel at castbox.fm, and this is devoted specifically for podcasting, and it's audio only. So if you want to hear a show and you don't need to see the visual of this video podcast, that's fine. Just go to castbox.fm, and it's really tailored to, plug in, listen to the show as a podcast, and you can do that on whatever device you've got. Castbox.fm, the Dave's Gone By channel. Well, it's just about 10 a.m. in the neighborhood Eastern Time, and we have waiting in the waiting room our guest, Joel Samberg, the writer, novelist, as well as nonfiction writer. He's written a couple of books now about the same person, but they're written in a different way, from a different mindset, about his grandpa, Benny Bell. If you want to know more about that, and I'm sure you do, stick around because we're bringing Rabbi Sol Solomon into the neighborhood. Rabbi Sol, of course, from Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. He does most of our interviews, and so I'm going to get his theme music up there, and then the next voice you hear will be very, very, very Jewish. Shalom, my friends, and shalom, my enemies. Shalom to all of you. This is our old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, here and wishing you a lovely Shabbos morning. And what a delight, how wonderful it is to be talking to someone who's already been on this program, a friend of the neighborhood, we would call him, also a Jew. So yeah, already I like him for this particular reason. His name is Joel Samberg. Let me tell you just a little bit about him. If I can find my notes. They're written left to right, which is weird because I usually read right to left. But here he is. He is, of course, the grandson of Benjamin Samberg, a.k.a. Benny Hill. And he's written one memoir book about Benny Hill, but now he's got a nonfiction novel that's also kind of based on the same guy. Joel Samberg has also written for the New York Daily News and Connecticut Magazine. He wrote a biography of Karen Carpenter. We'll talk about, I'm guessing it was a very slim volume, as well as two novels, Blowing in the Wind, and I love this, Almost Like Praying, which is kind of what I do if you ever see me in synagogue. And now his book, Jackie Jester, is being published by Bear Manor Media. Here with us in the neighborhood. On our media, Joel Samberg. Shalom, Joel.
How are you?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Good. Just one quick correction. My grandfather is Benny Bell, not Benny Hill.
Oh, I said, I'm sorry, Benny Bell. Of course I meant Benny Bell. I must have shaving cream in this ear. Get it. And in fact, his Joel's first book was called Grandpa Had a Long One, based on a song by Benny Bell. So first of all, welcome back to the neighborhood. How you doing? I asked you how you're doing, but you're Jewish. So how's your prostate? How's your health? How's your back? How are things?
Well, I will try not to hurt myself by patting myself on the back because of all the arthritis by saying I'm in pretty good shape.
Hello, this is good. This is important to you. So you've written quite a lot. You are a professional writer, essentially. So we know you from your novels, but you make a living or as an editor, or what is your actual writing day job, if you will?
Right now, at the age of 67, I am a full-time writer because I guess if you were to compare me against everybody on either side of the house, I guess you could say I'm retired. But I'll never retire because God gave me the need, the want, the urge, the desire to write constantly. There's nothing else I've ever wanted to do. But to answer your question specifically about a profession, quote unquote, before I retired and became a full-time writer, I was still in writing, but it was for corporate communications, corporate newsletters, editing and writing, all kinds of speeches, and anything for the corporate and employee communications business. But I've also, all through that career, I was always writing magazine and newspaper articles, and I was always working on books.
Now, I've got to ask you, did you ever, because this is a great question for someone who wrote that much and all day long and then came home and wrote for fun, if you will. Did you ever get writer's block, and how did you get out of it?
I don't think writer's block really exists. I think it's a term somebody made up when they went through a period of time when something just didn't pop into their head. I don't think that's a block. I think that's the mind's creative process of letting things germinate, letting things develop and percolate. I don't think there's a physical or emotional or mental thing that can be called writer's block. I think it's just a natural process. And all it does is give you a chance to regroup, to develop some new ideas, to try to figure out why somebody said something or did something in a story that you just wrote, and for other things to happen that you're going to put down on those pages.
Now, do you, as you said, you were writing during the day and then working on these novels and other things at night. Did that also help? Like you didn't have to just focus on one piece day after day, week after week. Did you need that sort of, okay, I'm going to write in the morning, but it's a whole different thing, and then come back to this?
Well, I think about maybe that's why I was never that successful, at least financially, as a corporate and employee communications manager, because even during the day when I had these jobs, all I would be doing is thinking about the stuff that I was writing at night.
Wow.
And that's what drove me. That's the center of my being. That's the core of who I am. I would always think about getting back home, having dinner with the family, relaxing a little bit, and then getting back to work on my books.
So was the memoir about Benny Bell, about Ben Samberg, was that your first major full-length piece that wasn't written for, corporate America?
No, my very first book was called The Jewish Book of Lists
I
by,
didn't know this, the Jewish Book of Lists.
yes,
Oh,
which was
wow.
published by Citadel Press, which right after it was published, Citadel was taken over by Kensington Books. Um, and so I think that was 1998. So that was my first published book. Right after that, I wrote a book for the Jonathan David Publishing Company called Real, REEL, Real Jewish, A Century of Jewish Movies.
Yes.
Uh, and that was about the year 2000. Those were both nonfiction, obviously. And then I started getting into fiction after that.
Well, I do have to go there in terms of asking you, because I thank you I got to read these books now. What is the most Jewish movie ever made?
The most, well, probably Schindler's List. Um,
Yeah.
there are a lot, actually. Even my book, which is all about that and lists about and talks about maybe 100 of them. There are probably about 1,000 of them in which what defines a Jewish movie.
Yeah.
To me, it's a movie in which there is at least one major character who happens to be Jewish and who is going through something that can be considered a Jewish experience, a Jewish problem, a Jewish idea, even a Jewish stereotype for that matter.
All right.
So, by that measure, maybe one out of every five movies made over the last century can be a Jewish movie,
I
particularly
remember when
when you
I was
consider
in
the fact that
yeah, sorry, what?
I was going to say, particularly when you consider the fact that so many writers and directors have been Jewish over the last 120 years.
Well, Hollywood was, I mean, as anti-Semites would say, Hollywood was built and run by a
Yes.
bunch of Yiddles, from MGM to all these different places. So, all right, do you have a favorite? You mentioned the most important, best-known Jewish movie. What's your favorite Jew movie?
Well, that's exceedingly difficult to say, but although it's not the greatest movie, I have a particular liking of The Chosen only because Chaim Potok, who wrote it, is one of my favorite novelists. So
And
I have a
nice
bias
job.
there just on the fact that he wrote it.
Yeah. No, the movie's very nice. They did a nice job adapting
Yeah.
that movie to. I know maybe you said the producers. Is that in there? I'm hoping the producers is in your book. It
It's
has to.
probably mentioned. I don't know if I give a chapter to it, but it's there.
Oh, ah. Well, anyway. All right. So that's an old book. That's a book you wrote 25 years ago called
Yes,
Real Jewish, and also the Jewish Book of Lists,
right.
which you had that in front of you too. Like, what is an example of a Jew list? Like, all things that are wrong with me today: headache, prostate, nipples hurting a little. What do you got on there?
The publisher had specifically the way the book came about was I had originally proposed to him a comedy book called Jerusalem, a Prophet Center, and it was going to be a retake on all the Bible stories as written as if I wrote them, as opposed to whoever wrote them. He didn't want that particular idea, but he said, "Oh, you're a pretty funny guy. Why don't you write us a Jewish book of lists with a little bit of an emphasis on fun and lightheartedness, and just give people something fun to read?" So the lists, there's a little bit of humor thrown in, but they are legitimate lists of Jewish writers, Jewish actors. Um, there's a section like these people are also Jews, and it's lists of porn actors, and a list of nudists, and a list of black people. All different kinds, like Jew too, TOO. I'm a
Now,
Jew.
did you include half and 1/4 and 1/8 and 1/16, as Hitler would have, Jews who were not fully Jewish?
Probably, yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering. All right, so now let's get though to the fact that you are, and you talked about this on the program back when we were on the show years ago. But when did you realize that your grandpa was special, was different, that he wasn't just some guy who worked a regular job and so forth?
That's a very interesting question because I was very close to him. I saw him at least twice a month through my entire childhood, even though he lived in Brooklyn and I lived out in the suburbs on Long Island. Wasn't that easy a trip from time to time. But I saw him a lot, and he was always him. I mean, I didn't know he was different. I thought all grandfathers were like that. It was only after I became a teenager and realized that other friends' grandfathers spent time in front of the TV, drinking beer, talking about sports, being kind of boring, that I realized that mine was special.
Wait,
Because
how was
mine,
he when you were a kid? How was he different? What did you?
because he
I
was
bet you didn't know.
always humming, always singing, always creating in his head, always cracking a joke, always wanting to make people laugh. Nothing ever got to him. Nothing made him sad, at least in front of me.
Yeah.
Always working on a new project, always bouncing back when a project failed, and most of them did. And then when 1974 came around, and all of a sudden he was popular coast to coast because of Dr. Demento and Cousin Brucey on WNBC, that's when I said, "Wow, he's famous." I never knew that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did that so did that period though change his life appreciably? He must have made a little money. He got a Vanguard recording contract. I mean, stuff happened. And
Mhm.
yet did it sort of happen to this point when it could have happened to this point?
He was able to buy a few more presents for people, but that's it. Because the core of a person does not change. People do not change. And what made Benny Bell for his entire career, which was stubbornness and paranoia, doggedness and determination, that stayed with him. So even though he got this recording contract from Vanguard, he still wanted to do things his own way. He still wanted to be his own producer. He still wanted to be his own arranger. He still wanted to be his own publicity guy. He still wanted to be his own distribution manager. That's the wrong way to go, but that was him. And so after the Shaving Cream success and the Shaving Cream album success, he resorted back to being the old Benny Bell, which means that there were no other successes after that.
Yeah.
And he rode on that success for the rest of his career, which to his credit, did include some television and some radio and some concerts. He toured a little bit with Weird Al and with Dr. Demento.
Yep. I don't remember, when was he ever on TV?
He was on the Joe Franklin show a lot. He was on something called Beyond Vaudeville, which was on MTV. He was on local WNBC News a couple of times.
All right. Yeah. Because Dave, who produces this program, was actually at one of the Dr. Demento concerts at the Bottom Line in New York, where he was part of the bill. And
I probably met him there that day.
I wouldn't be so. Wow, maybe we're talking 35 years ago. So, but also in terms of one of the things, and I think he wasn't necessarily wrong about this, is that his recordings, I guess they're mostly from the 1950s, the classic ones, right?
1940s. 40s.
What?
40s. 1940s.
So from the 40s. So who was his band? Because it's instantly recognizable. He has a very, very particular sound and cadence to this klezmer-ish, but not quite. Who were those people? They're great.
They were professional musician friends of his who would work either for free or for scale or for the promise of royalties if anything sold. It was a bunch of the same guys all the time. Every once in a while, somebody would not be able to show up. So through his massive connections in the industry, he would get somebody else to come to his basement studio, first on Elton Street in Brooklyn, and then in Sheepshead Bay on Avenue U. Basement studio. That's where all of his stuff was recorded. Not in big fancy recording studios in Manhattan, but in his homemade recording studio in the basement of his apartment building. That's why the sound was all often the same. Plus, he arranged everything, and that's another reason why the sound was often the same. And by the way, did you know that before the novelty stuff took hold, he was pretty well known, at least in the New York metropolitan region, as a Yiddish songwriter and composer, British composer and performer who was on Yiddish Jewish radio all through New York City in the late 30s and early 40s, more than the novelty stuff. If you do some
They would have been
research,
on WEBD and places like that, and doing, because there are it was kind of a surprise to me when you start getting deep into the Benny Bell discography, and you realize that there were songs that weren't novelties at all. They were just Yiddish, like Mickey Katzy kind of thing, without the comedy stuff. It was basic, klezmer or Chazanah wedding things.
yes. Well, there was a lot of comedy too, but it was still Yiddish comedy. Benny Blesses the Bride and the Klezmer Trio and Moshe Pipik, all kinds of crazy Yiddish songs that if you listen to them, you could hear the love in his voice. He loved doing that stuff, but it was not a money maker for him. It was a passion, and he stayed by it as long as he could. The reason he went into the novelty stuff was because he happened to be a funny guy anyway, and a record company executive at RCA, by the way, I think he was a well-known guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, suggested to him, why don't you just try like a double entendre thing and see what happens? So even though he loved the Yiddish material, he was good at it, he was passionate about it, it drove him, you could just feel the love in his heart. He tried one record, I think maybe the first one was, I don't think it was, it was Everybody Wants My Fanny.
It's wonderful. That is a great one.
It was a regional hit. It sold a lot. It was in every jukebox, in every soda shop, and every bar in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx. And so he said to himself, maybe this is a direction to go. At least it may not be my grandest passion, but it's music. It's funny. He loves music and he likes being funny. Plus, maybe I can even have enough money to give my son a bar mitzvah for once in my life. So,
well, but the thing was, it wasn't on his own label. He put out a lot of records. So somewhere somebody was helping or funding. If it wasn't a major label, who was putting these novelty records out, especially if they were kind of sometimes hinting at naughtiness.
If you went through his entire discography, you would see about maybe almost a dozen different labels. One called Ariel, one called, there were a whole host that obviously don't exist anymore. But to your point, it was his own label. Just like in my novel, Jackie Jester, Benny Bell went to all the established record companies to try to get deals. Everybody loved the guy, but they didn't have enough confidence in the material to make a major investment in him. So he got fed up. He got lied to. He signed contracts that turned out to be fraudulent contracts. There's a lot of the stuff that my character, Jackie Jester, goes through too. At one point, Jackie, like my grandfather Benny, decided, oh, the hell with this. I'm going to start my own label and do it on my own. And I don't have to answer to anybody. I won't lie to myself. I won't cheat myself. He started several record companies. One was called Madison Music. One was called Bell Records, not the famous Bell Records. It was before the famous Bell Records. One was called Novelty Record Company. There were 3 or 4 Benny Bell owned and operated labels that he recorded under for the bulk of his career.
But again, it never, he sold here and there, but at that point, it didn't launch him. It didn't do what a CBS or Columbia back in the day would have done, or
right.
Yeah, right.
But that being said, he never really did anything else. So here I am, a relatively normal, well, debatable. Yeah, here I am, 60, whatever, 7 years old, living in a house. My point being, whatever Benny Bell did, it was enough for him to raise a son, my father, Jerry, to grow up to be a normal guy who had a normal family, who had a normal suburban house in a suburban town on Long Island. And then he begat me, and here I am, spent my life writing. Point being, Benny Bell devoted his entire career to music under the conditions about which we just spoke. His own record label, spit and prayer, failure, up and down.
But he was able to cobble together enough of a living to have a decent suburban life.
Exactly point.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
But how does your father feel about his dad?
A fascinating story and maybe another novel to come based on him. As a matter of fact, I just did write a long form article, which I don't know if I'll be able to have it published anywhere, about my father. My father had a beautiful baritone, Perry Como-like voice. And when he was 17, he had Jerry Bell. He took my grandfather's pseudonym, Jerry Bell, in his orchestra. And he could have probably tried to do something with his life in music, but he grew up basically in poverty because of my grandfather's decisions. And he knew what the industry was like. He knew that my grandfather was cheated and lied to and that he had a tough time. He made a conscious decision somewhere along the line. I'm not going into the entertainment industry at all. He was mechanically inclined. He didn't do very well in school because not that he wasn't smart, but he didn't apply himself. Maybe because back then he thought he would go into music and he didn't have to learn algebra. But anyway, he decided to go into air conditioning and heating. And he was a contractor. He ended up owning the company on Long Island, one of Long Island's most well-established contractors for home comfort. And he completely avoided the entertainment industry at all costs.
Do you think he regretted that later in life, or he had a decent life and,
He had a very decent
music
life.
you go listen on the weekend?
Yeah, he maintained his interest in music. He was always listening to music. He was always singing, just like his father always sang. He enjoyed the entertainment industry, but from afar, as a viewer, as a listener. So I don't think he regretted, because his family was a good family. He had a loving marriage. He and my mother were not only marriage partners but best friends, and they depended on each other. And it was a comfortable life. It was a nice little house. It was a good existence. I don't think he regretted it at all.
Now, let me ask you, you wrote the book on your grandpa. You wrote Grandpa Had a Long One.
Right.
You figure, they always say, well, you've written the play about this thing. That's cathartic. Now you move on to other things. And yet, something keeps straight. You just wrote a long form piece about him again. And your novel, Jackie Jester, is essentially what is it that keeps bringing you back to the same overall subject?
Couple of things. Number one, I'm a great proponent in the axiom that you write what you know. That's the best, as an author. Of course, there are many authors who write about things that you cannot possibly know. People who wrote about life on Mars don't know what that's like. People who wrote about prehistoric man don't know what that's like.
Oh.
But you always bring in elements of yourself somewhere along.
If you find a good proctologist, he can write about life on Uranus. But just, I'm sorry. Please continue. Yes.
That's quite all right. I love anus jokes as much as the next guy. I know this stuff because I grew up with it, and yet there's still always more to tell that you can't tell in just one piece.
So what is it about Jackie Jester that gets at something about Benny Bell that the biography you wrote, this goes deeper?
Oh, well, this takes liberties with some of the things that happened in his real life, and it takes some questions that I had as a kid about my grandfather that were never answered, and extrapolates from that. The story, some of the side stories that come out in the novel are based on little questions that popped into my head about my grandfather that I never got to ask. So therefore, the answers are fabricated, but based on what I think could have been a reality. And a novel is different from real life. It's definitely Benny. It's Benny Bell in disguise, but things happen to Jackie Jester, or Jackie Jester does some things that I don't think my grandfather may have done.
Now, let me ask, what is the actual, we should have started with this. And what is the basic overall, elevator pitch plot of Jackie Jester?
That he decided early on he was going to devote his life to comedy music, and nothing was going to get in the way, no matter what.
Well, that's okay. I think that's pretty real life. and he makes some of the same wrong decisions, and he's stubborn and so forth. And
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's very stubborn. He's very paranoid. He's very goofy. He has some chance meetings with people like Harpo Marx and Frank Sinatra before he was famous, and Irving Berlin.
now
Uh,
these you made up, or these are based on things your grandpa told you? That
these are, well, my grandfather did meet Irving Berlin, but he these are basically made up.
okay. So wow. By the way, again, the name of the book is Jackie Jester. You can all buy it from Bear Manor Media. And so my other question is, let's talk about some of your other books, because what of all the bands out there, of all the other stories you can tell, what drew you to Karen Carpenter?
Oh, well, that's a fascinating story too. Um, I had their what is essentially the second album. Most people think it's the first album, but it's the album called The Carpenters, on which Close to You and We've Only Just Begun were part of it. I had that when I was a kid. I was about 16, 15, I guess. And that was it. I played it a lot of times back then. I liked it, put it away, got into other things. Got into Loggins and Messina and the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan and all that stuff. And completely forgot about them for years and years and years and years and years and years. But then, when my middle daughter, was moving into her own apartment during college days, the trend at the time was to take old album covers, frame them, and hang them on your wall. It was just a short-lived trend. So she asked me if she could go through mine. I said, sure. So she went through my old record collection, my old 33s, and found the Carpenters album, took the album cover, left me the record. And so I decided to listen to it again. This is years and years and years and years later. And that's when I realized, wow, this stuff is pretty interesting. The arrangements are complex. That voice, Karen's voice, is just so soothing. And I said, whatever happened to these guys? I knew nothing about them at the time.
Oh, you didn't know the whole story of her? Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But interestingly, my daughter Kate, when she took the album, she remembered seeing an advertisement for that Karen Carpenter television movie, and she watched it. I guess it was just on, and she watched it. It was just coincidence that she had just taken the album from me, and then this Karen Carpenter thing, which was old by that time, was on TV, and the whole anorexia thing. And she started watching it and asked me about it, and I didn't know anything about Karen Carpenter. But that's when I started to get interested in the whole story. So I started researching it just casually, not thinking I was going to write a book, not thinking that I was going to become a rabid fan, not thinking anything. I just interested in it, I guess, as a journalist. And then I started to discover some things that I just hadn't read anywhere. I started to think about things that I hadn't read anywhere, things about, well, she was probably a hell of a lot sicker than anybody's let on with emotional, I don't mean sick. I don't mean mentally.
Mental.
I mean emotional problems, emotional issues that nobody really ever got into. The anorexia is just one part of it and a small part of it. And there was the whole brother thing and the whole mother thing and the whole, is this what she wanted to do with her life thing? And what kind of personality was she? She really was a lonely clown. She was like my grandfather. She was goofy, always wanted to make people happy, no matter what was going on in her life, no matter what was going on in her life. So little by little, I started to chip away at the story, and I said, there's an article here, there's a book here, there's a radio report here, which I did for NPR on All Things Considered. On the 30th anniversary of her death, I did a piece for them. I think that's what turned into the book. And then the book turned into articles because I couldn't cover everything in the book. And then I was asked to appear on a couple of documentaries, one made by a German film crew that came to my house. I was in 2 or 3 documentaries. I had about 3 or 4 magazine articles, about 3 or 4 newspaper articles, the book. And then I was also part of Randy Schmidt's book. Randy Schmidt is the quintessential author of Karen Carpenter material. He wrote the biography of her that's considered to be the biography of Karen Carpenter. He wrote another book in which he asked a whole bunch of people who are involved in the music industry in one way or another to give their opinions on certain songs. So I was part of his book.
Oh, nice.
So all in all, I guess about half a dozen books and maybe a dozen newspaper and magazine articles and 2 or 3 documentaries.
Well, let me ask, in that book, which I have not read, but how does Richard come off? Does her brother come off okay? Is he
My book or in Randy's?
your investigation, your discovery of what went wrong? Because you mentioned, well, there's her whole brother stuff, and then there's the mother stuff. What are you hinting at?
Um, I refuse to demonize him. I think he is. It's tough to throw the word genius around so liberally, but I think it's justified. I think he really is a musical genius. Um, he too, I mean, DNA is very strong. So whatever DNA crept into Karen that gave her a few issues, I think a little bit crept into him with different issues, not the same ones. But he, in my opinion, has a few little personality quirks that made him a little difficult to like wholeheartedly. Give full-throated support of the guy as a musical genius without taking the genius part away. So he comes out pretty good. I think he probably may regret some of the decisions he made, although he's the type of guy to never admit that. Um, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't think there would be a Karen Carpenter that we'd be able to talk about had there not been a Richard Carpenter. Conversely, I don't think there would have been a Richard Carpenter to talk about if there hadn't been a Karen Carpenter either, despite his musical genius.
Well, no, he couldn't. You don't think he could have written for another artist like a Peggy Lee or?
Oh, he definitely could have, but he wouldn't have become the rich and famous guy that he did.
Right. Yeah. So what is the name again of the Carpenter book? I don't have that.
Some kind. We have it. Yes, some kind of lonely clown.
Right, and that's available still on who is the publisher?
Also, Bear Mountain Media, the same company that published Jackie Jester. Yeah, and Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com, all the online booksellers. And it's not a biography, and I state that clearly in the introduction. It is a reflection, it is a reassessment, and it is an appreciation. It's not a biography of her life.
Okay, interesting. Okay, got that. Kind of the way Jackie Jester is, but your memoir, Benny Bell, was kind of a biography and a reflection at the same time. I mean, I recall that having his whole life in there.
Incidentally, a little aside here, Karen Carpenter makes a brief cameo appearance in Jackie Jester. Without giving away too much,
yeah.
Jackie Jester's son ends up going into the record business, even though throughout the entire book he wasn't going to, just like my father wasn't going to, but he does. And at the end, he owns a record company, and his executive secretary is trying to set him up with Karen Carpenter, because by then it's the early 70s.
Actually, it's a great idea. It's a really cheap meal. It's like, I'll have the quarter pounder with cheese. No, just a glass of water. So one celery stick, half a celery stick. We're good. Best date ever.
Karen also shows up in a novel that I wrote a couple of years ago called Blowing in the Wind, which is about a musical prodigy growing up on Long Island in the 1960s. And he, too, gets to meet Karen Carpenter when he goes to visit Cousin Brucey at WNBC in Manhattan in the early 70s, right before the Carpenters break into national stardom. So, I don't know, somehow she pops up into so much of what I write.
There's something about Karen Carpenter. Is Karen Carpenter going to be in your next book? What are you working on now?
Oh, no, she's not. I'm just wrapping up a new novel called Remember Me to Herald Square, which is a story about a hotshot New York City newspaper reporter and a struggling young actress in New York City in 1985. They were high school sweethearts 10 years earlier in rural Ohio. And they meet up again in New York when their careers are just starting. But can they get back together again? That's the question of the novel. After all, the reporter, Michael, how far will he go for a story? And the actress, Tina, how far will she go for a part? And without giving too much away, they find their careers on an unintentional collision course.
Oh, it sounds... So I'm not going to... When do you think you'll have the final draft done and so forth?
Let's see, in about 3 hours. No, it's on its third draft, and I'm just about 2 or 3 days away from finishing that draft, and then I'll see what I'll do with it. But if there are any publishers out there, I'm here. Joel the Writer at Comcast.net. Come to me.
Joel the Writer at Comcast. But here's the deal. I mean, you're still writing a book, going through the time. I know you love to write. It's what you live for. But
Yes.
writing without knowing it's going to be published by, well, Bear Manor. I guess Bear Manor wants something that's more directly biographical, or why
No, their matter is more entertainment related, and
this?
they're the biggest publisher of showbiz bios, showbiz backstories, and now showbiz related fiction.
Right.
Uh, and then Jackie Jester is about the record industry, so it fits. Remember Me to Herald Square is about journalism. It's not really about entertainment.
It's not so much about Broadway and music.
No, because she's the main character. Tina has not done anything yet, so she's not famous. So I would love to be able to break through to one of the major publishers, the Simon and Schusters of the world and that sort of thing.
Now, but speaking of theater, you have written plays back in the
Yes.
day. I didn't even realize that. So, have you written any in recent years, or that was sort of a period you're now concentrating on fiction and nonfiction?
No, I've written about 5 or 6 full-length plays, and a whole bunch of short plays, one acts and 10-minute plays, which is a movement in and of itself. It's the shorter ones that have come to life on stage. One was called The Bittersweet Ballad of Bobby Blue, which was debuted at a theater out here in Connecticut a couple of years ago. And one of 6 of my short 10-minute plays were put together in an evening called 6 Tens from a 50 that were performed in New York City at the Beckman Theater, the Actors Theater, a couple of years ago, and that was fun. And I'm still writing plays every once in a while. I'm writing one now called The History of Comedy, which is going to debut. I started my own little theater company, my own little community theater and performing arts group called Playhouse 44 here in Avon, Connecticut. And we're going to perform The History of Comedy in August at Avon High School.
Oh, I had no idea. You run this theater company.
Yeah.
How many years have you been doing that?
1.5.
Oh,
Just started it.
so just with friends you knew were talented and you knew you could get a venue, or how did you? I mean,
I've
that's
wanted to do something like this for years and years and years and years. There can never be too much theater. It's something that I enjoy. I thought it would be an outlet for me as I got older to socialize a little bit more and to express myself a little bit more, maybe somewhere down the line to debut one of my own full-length plays, and just to have something to do and to give back to the community, especially in this post-pandemic days when people are looking for something to do. Because in our mission statement, one of our goals is to be able to provide theater and performing arts at extremely affordable prices. If somebody has to say, no, I can't go see that, it's too much, then it's not worth doing at all. Because what's the point? I mean, that's why we're all amateurs, we're all volunteers. Our ticket prices are never more than $10, and some are $8, and some are free with just a suggested donation to help fund our 501c3 not-for-profit organization. Yeah, we're not-for-profit.
Are you afraid of running out of grant money now? I mean, with everything that's going on, or
we've been doing pretty good with a couple of local donations and with a grant from a government organization here in town and from ticket sales. And it's not that we have a whole hell of a lot of money, but we purposely put on things that don't cost a lot of money to mount. They're all, and nobody gets paid. And so we're doing okay with the time being.
Mit Mazel. So again, the name of that show that's happening in August in Avon, Connecticut is your show?
Well, the actual full title is I just call it The History of Comedy because it's easier. But the actual full title is going to be something like the not quite complete history of comedy and tragedy without the tragedy, something like that.
I mean, so you're still working on it. You haven't. It's not.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I'll probably be done tonight, and then there's a lot of editing involved, and then the mounting of it is going to be a logistical nightmare that I'm looking forward to.
You're directing?
No, I'm not going to direct.
Oh, interesting. So are you going to be? Do you act with this company, or you just write?
There's going to be so many parts because we're going to do actual scenes from comedy throughout the years. We're going to do scenes from Dick Van Dyke Show and I Love Lucy and the Who's on First routine and stand-up comics, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. So I'll probably take one small part somewhere along the line just for fun.
Well, if you ever need anybody to be Jackie Mason, you just give me a call. I can do this for you. I can be up there. I can talk about Starbucks from all that. Anyway, we have been talking with Bang. No, not Bang. I was going to say Bang Samberg. No, Joel, a chip off the old block, if you will. Please Go find his books. Really, the best way to, because you mentioned so many books now. What is your website again?
Well, my website is still the website from when I was doing corporate communications, so that's not going to help much.
Oh,
But I would suggest if you just go to Amazon and type in my name in the search bar, all of my books will pop up.
all the books, including Real Jewish, Jewish Book of Lists, Blowing in the Wind, Almost Like Praying, and now
Some Kind of Lonely Clown, and now Jackie Jester, and Grandpa Had a Long One. Yeah, all of them should pop up, and if they don't, just try to find them because that's what you're supposed to do.
but Jackie Jester is the brand new one. Hold it up one more time if we can see it from Bear Manor Media. Bye, Joel Samberg. Joel, I want to wish you much, much more writing, much success. Break a leg in the theater. This is so exciting.
Thank you.
And
You are wonderful. You're a great guy. I love talking to you. You're fun. You're educated. You're well spoken. You love. I can just like my grandfather. I can see you have a love of life. Um, you just want to make people happy. You just want to inform them and entertain them and educate them, and I appreciate that more than I can say.
wow, I'm tearing up a little bit. Hold on there. Thank you, Joel Samberg.
Thank
Happy
you.
Shabbos to you and
Yeah,
Shalom to
thank you. Be peace and health and happiness.
you. Joe Samberg, my friends, author of Jackie Jester and all those other books he was talking about, Jewish Book of Lists and Real, Reel, Jewish. Come on, you got to read these guys' books. And yay, and he's a theater guy too. How delightful to have him back in the neighborhood. How wonderful to have you all in the neighborhood. You know, I am something of a writer too. So if you want to read the things that I have written, like my rabbinical reflections, which sometimes I co-write with Dave Lefkowitz, is coming back. But you can see them all at shalomdammit.com. Shalom, Dammit. Shalomdammit.com. Plus, this is where you can watch my theatrical performance, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon, which was taped at the Richmond Shepherd Theater in New York a few years back, as well as the TV show that I did called Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Sol Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour. 10 hilarious episodes. All of them. They're on YouTube, but they're linked. All my links are at shalomdammit.com. All my links except the breakfast sausage links that my constituents don't know I sometimes eat. Anywho, happy Shabbos to all of you as well. Thank you again to Joel Samberg. And I, as the joshing Jackie Jester of your dreams, ladies and gentlemen, wish to see you very, very soon. I'm going to bring the program, though, back to Dave Lefkowitz, the host of Dave's Gone By. All right, welcome back, my friend. No, I'm back. Other people have said this. It's not really that you went away. I went away. I'm back. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching that delightful interview with author Joel Samberg and Rabbi Sol Solomon. Thank you for tuning in. Maybe you did an hour 45 minutes ago for the beginning of the program. If you missed any or all of that or want to see it again, remember that our website is davesgoneby.com. davesgoneby.com for all your neighborhood needs. Well, it is 11:45 Eastern Time on this Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. We're doing our 978th episode of the program, calling it Play It Again, Samberg. We still have other things to do in this program. For example, we've got StoryTime coming. We have Bunion Watch coming. We have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And, I forgot to even deal with this yet. Dave's Big Dick Shineri. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't choose the word before. I need to do this. So what we've been doing for a while now is I will find a random word in the dictionary. Just go thumbing through it. And then later in the program, I will have to talk extemporaneously about whatever that word brings into my head. It can be very direct, or it can just spark something that sparks something else. It's kind of a way of keeping the wheels going. So I talked about this earlier in the show, but I didn't actually pick the word. And recently, because Merriam-Webster has been doing that for us, we just kind of go to the Merriam-Webster Facebook or Twitter listing of the day and do their word. But I want to do it old school style today. I've got the old dictionary here, the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I am going to thumb through these, how many pages? 939 pages. Well, some of these are geographical names. So we'll go, well, don't need those, hold on. So it won't be 900, it's only, I misstated. It may be less actually than 900 total pages. Oh, biographical names, foreign words. All right, we're gonna keep it to the first 850 pages, ladies and gentlemen, of words in our dictionary. I will scroll through with my thumb and then at random stop, and then whatever word my finger lands on, or you know what, I think pooey. Pooey, I'm going to give you the honor today, since we're talking rather negatively about deer poop. Here's a positive poo role model. We're going to use him as I thumb through and scroll through Dave's big dictionary, and later in the program, I'm going to have to speak about whatever word pooey lands on. Here we go. Are you excited? I know I am. The word is, I cannot believe this. This is one of the greatest moments in the whole history of this program. And I will explain why when I do this. In fact, I'm going to do the second right now, because this is too unbelievably perfect in so many ways. This was really, honestly, completely random. You saw me. I was scrolling through the book. I took a fake piece of crap and I put it down on a page. The word that Pui landed on in Merriam-Webster's dictionary is enema. Enema! This is the word of the day. Injection of liquid into the rectum, also the material so injected. It's a noun. Plural is enemas. Also, did you know that an alternative plural to enema is enemata? Sounds religious, doesn't it? Oh, yes, I'm going to St. George of Enemata. Yes. And this is a word that is so perfect, not just for my sense of humor, not in just a way of how incredibly coincidental and possibly ironic that I used a piece of poo today to land on the book, and that poo landed on enema. Usually enema lands on poo. But how great is that? How astonishing is that? And I'm just going to do the Dave's Free Dictionary segment right now because I know exactly what I need to talk about. This is unbelievable. What does the word enema bring to my mind? Extra, tell all about it. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. If I tell you this is one of the key words in my life, and I've spoken, honestly, I've told this story, I'm sure, before, one or two, and maybe three times on this program over the years. So it's not new, but just the ability to bring this up now of how important, in a positive way, the word enema has been to my consciousness. I cannot tell you. So what does enema make me think of? Because I've never had one. I'm sure at some point I will. I'm sure at some point I really should. I'm 61 years old. I should get one of those exams, not just a proctology thing, but the tube thing, the thing. And I think that starts with an enema and then whatever. Anyway, but first heard about an enema from my Uncle Nathan. We called him Uncle Nay. And Uncle Nay was kind of in a Benny Bell sort of way, loved a sense of humor, a jokester, a tumbler, but he worked in law. He was fine. He was much more normative. But he loved comedy and humor, and he loved telling jokes and puns. So I remember he told this joke that I didn't understand. I didn't get when he told it. And my mom was there, and I think my grandma was there. He visited, and he was saying, well, it was about this guy. He's in the hospital, and for some reason his chart gets messed up. And so the nurse comes in and says, okay, time for your enema, and gives him an enema. And then nurse goes out, and then 10 minutes later, another nurse comes in, doesn't see the chart, gives, oh, seems time's for your enema, gives him another enema. And like half an hour later, another nurse comes in and then says, oh, Mr. Sorensen, time for your enema. Comes in. Fourth nurse comes in like 20 minutes later, and he's like, oh, who are you, friend or enema? Right? Okay. I mean, it's like Uncle Nay joke, right? And the thing was, I didn't get it because I didn't know. I think I was 8 years old. I had no idea what an enema was. Didn't occur to me. Of course, when they explained it, I was over the moon. When they explained that you have to take a bulb and a bottle of water or some solution with a tube, and the other part of the tube goes into your ass and forces you to poop. Oh my God, because I was totally into scatological humor from the time I was nothing. Toilets, the word toilet would set me into paroxysms of joy. And anything involving poop or toilets or caca, forget it. The whole idea of it all is funny. I've never outgrown that, honestly. I'm still a scatological mess. So learning what an enema was just stuck with me. And it wasn't even that the joke was the plan. The joke wasn't funny to me, but the idea of taking a tube, jamming it in your tuchus, and then pumping water in there, and then waiting for water and sludgy poop to come out. What a beautiful thing for a demented 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. The story does not end there because this is how we are warped. And this is what happens to us. This stays in the back of my mind. And at a certain point, I had a best friend in junior high school and then on to high school for many years. And we were doing stuff that we were writing together, we were laughing together, listening to music together, sharing our tastes, really bonding. And one of the things he wanted to do was to start a band, kind of a comedy rock band with other friends of ours. One of whom was a talented bassist, another was a guitarist, another a drummer. Let's put this together. And we were looking for material because we were just going to cover other people's songs. And like, well, I don't know, let me write something. And the first song I ever wrote I was going to say as a grown-up, but no, I was probably 15. While Taylor Swift was writing brilliant ballads that would go on her first album at that age, my first song was the Enema Blues. I kid you not. And I actually played it with my friend on this show 2 decades ago. The Enema Blues. It was a basic lift from a classic, like Heartbreak Hotel, bluesy sort of number. But it wasn't just like, oh, I wrote a silly song that played on the idea of enemas, as I do, but it opened, literally as an enema does, it opened the floodgates. And suddenly I was writing 2 songs a day. When I'd never written, I think I wrote 1 or 2 songs in Hebrew school that were kind of playing musically. I had some basic songs in my head pre-teen. But this was the point at which I was like, oh my God, I can make parody songs, I can make funny songs of my own. And within about a month, I suddenly had like 20 songs written. And I wanted to hear them all done. And we were in a band, and it was suddenly like I was going to get them done and played and maybe get famous. Ha ha ha. But the Enema Blues was a song that started it all. It was the verbal tube that got jammed into my brain rectum and allowed floodgates of stupidity, comedy, nonsense, music, and creativity to flood out of me. And very often, I've written at least 10 of the 200 plus songs that I've written are scatological in nature. I've written quite a few songs about poo, way too many songs about poo or mentioning poo, and at least 3 songs. I may be the only songwriter in the universe that has 3 songs that directly reference enemas, including a very early song I wrote, a parody of the Elton John and Bernie Taupin song, This One's For You. It's all about a guy who gives his great girl as her special love gift, as his romantic gesture. He offers giving her an, what's wrong with me? An enema. Now understand, Frank Zappa did do Illinois Enema Bandit. Based on a real life guy, you don't want to know. But he only wrote 1 song, insofar as I know, about enemas. I've written at least 2, three, because also, and as you'll find in my song lyrics on davelefkowitz.org, I also wrote a song called My Doggie's Christmas Gift. And this is many years later, by the way. This wasn't part of the initial growth spurt, if you will, of my songs just pouring out of me. This is quite a few years later when I wrote My Doggie's Christmas Gift. I think I even wrote it while I was still on, while I was already doing this program and thinking of songs to sing for our Christmas holiday show. And it's all about a guy who I'm going to give my dog an enema for Christmas. And yeah, you can, yeah. I'm going to give my dog an enema for Christmas. It almost has a Benny Bell bouncy kind of, I could hear the song being done by Benny Bell's band back in the late 30s and early 40s. But yes, and if you go through, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to go to davelefkowitz.org. Can you all do this with me right now? davelefkowitz.org to read all my song lyrics, my plays, my journalism stuff. I'm going to look up the word enema and see how many times it comes up. First one is Enema Blues. Then it comes up index of song. Oh, I didn't remember this. I did not even remember this. I told you I wrote songs about poop, quite a few of them, but I didn't remember that the word enema is in here. Is it? Let me see. Where is it? Oh, no. I'm so sorry. I misjudged. So I wrote some liner notes, if you will, for a song a song parody I did of the Jimmy Cliff song that was covered by Bruce Springsteen called Trapped. And the song parody is called Crapped, all about someone who's in various situations like a boardroom or on an airplane. Last place in the world you want to crap, and you crap yourself, which I've done. So in writing about my song Crapped, I mentioned the Enema Blues, but that's not on there. What about This One's For You? There's My Doggie's Christmas Gift. There's This One's For You. So there are other songs that come up when I put that word in, but it may also be because I mentioned Enema Blues in talking about those songs. There's, of course, the song that I co-wrote with Rabbi Sol Solomon, Anal Dreidel. This is a Hanukkah song, of course, not the one by Adam Sandler. Even Adam Sandler wouldn't touch this. And it's all about a dreidel that a guy keeps in his butt as kind of, it's a proctological tool that sees if he has cancer, but he also has fun with it. Don't even. Just go to davelefkowitz.org and you will see the levels of depravity and decrepitude, not decrepitude, but decrepitude that I sink to in my work. So, oh my God, what a perfect, fabulous word for Dave's Big Dick Dictionary, ladies and gentlemen. Enema for today. That just literally made it's been a lousy time, a lousy year, a lousy week, but this changes everything, my friends. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time here in the neighborhood. You're watching the 978th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. Thank you for sticking around. We have more show for you, because even though we had our interview, even though we did Greeley Times, even though we did Dave's Big Dick Dictionary, we still have our story time, we still have our friends of the neighborhood, our Colorado Limerick of the damned, and perhaps, let me see, I don't know if I rescued the Bunion Watch theme. Let's see if I did. Oh, I hope I did. No, I don't have my Bunion song. Oh, well. Oh, well, even so, we will do without it. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a recurring segment I've been doing now for past couple of years. I'm going to take off my sock. Da-dum, 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 dum, 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 dum. And I'm going to hop up on this chair and share with you the size, the shape, the condition of my bunions currently on my and have been on my feet forever. I'm hoping for some kind of measuring item. I guess I can use these things that fell off the wall here. Just these crab-like curlicue thing, just for color. So you can see the size and shape of my bunion and see what color it is in relation. Is it closer to the light pink or the more resonant heavy-duty pink? So I'm up on the chair, as you can see. Pop my little bunion. Yes, I'm wearing PJs under my pants. All right, well, I'm going to pull this down a little bit, just so you can really see. Look at that. Okay, here it is. Here is, I can't really get that. Oh, there, look at that. So when I pull the bunion like so, it turns redder. It does get closer a bit to the darker pink of the curlicue as opposed to the lighter pink. This is, of course, the bunion on my right foot. This is my big monster bunion, the one that will probably turn me into a cripple by the time I'm 85. And then let's get the other foot. Let's try this without falling down. Get the sock off. Here is my other foot bunion, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one that had the sore on the toe. This is the one that really started the whole Bunion Watch segment. Much lighter in color. It is significantly smaller, but it is obviously more like a foot pimple, at least on camera, than a bunion. Whiter. It's actually the shade of the middle piece here of the curlicues rather than the curlicues themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, behold the magic. I'll show the right one again for comparison. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. That's like something you see at the Grand Canyon. That is, oh, holy crap. I've never tilted the camera thing this way. That's just horrifying. Wow. Wow, it's like a monster movie. Dun, 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 dun. Bunion Watch, my friends, here on Dave's Gone By on this Saturday morning, February 22nd. One day, and I should really dedicate, although it's not the same day, one day before what would have been my dad's birthday. My dad passed 3.5 years ago, February 23rd. It was my father, Philip Lefkowitz's birthday. So we give a bit of a shout out of love to him from here. He died, was he? I think he was 84. He made it to, or maybe it was 83. I should know that off the top of my head, but anyway. So let's get to a bit more show, or as Chuck Barris would say, we'll be back with more stuff on the Dave's Gone By show. That stuff being Storytime, Friends of the Neighborhood, and our Colorado Limerick. So I'm going to put the dictionary away and bring on our Storytime segment. So this is where, just because it fills airtime, I'm going to read a book and perhaps goof on it just a little bit, share it with all of you. We've done it with everything from books from Sesame Street to Cow for Hansel. That was the thing that started the whole thing. And all different sorts of other books. Since it's been such a rough time for basically everybody I know, and probably you out there too, why not Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom? Floridius Bloom. I do like saying I love the resonance in my voice when I say bloom and gloom. Bialystock and Bloom, I presume, by L'Oreal Metz, pictures by Matt Phelan. So let's get the music up so that it is an official Storytime segment here on Dave's Gone By.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me you said you would. You got to give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
So, okay, this is story time here on Dave's Gone By. And honestly, really, I didn't write this. This is by, as we said, Florio Metz. It's a book for young readers. And I'll share the pictures, some of them, as they come up to. So let's see this gloomy, dark book for depressive children. Here we go. Look at it. Look at the imagery already. Look at that. Look at that thing. And didn't you hear about this asteroid that is coming to Earth? And I think they just mentioned on Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR that it's got more of a chance now than hitting the Earth, they think, than they thought before. It's got like a 1 in 45 chance of hitting our planet, not in water, but like in a place and killing people or something. This asteroid plummeting to us, if that's what this is. Oh, I'm sorry, this is a star. A tiny star fell to the planet of gloom in the yard of Floridius Bloom. Shining so brightly, it pierced gloom's gray night, and Floridius thought, I must have this light. So a wall he began. Oh, please tell me it's not going to be political. So a wall he began, and he built it so tall that it captured the light and circled it all. So he's going to build that wall, as it were. When was this written, by the way? This is from Penguin Books, or it's a division of Penguin, Dial Books for Young Readers. What the hell's the information on when this book was published? 2007, by Matt Phelan, did the jacket art. Okay, so here's what happens. Let's see what happens to Floridius. So there's a prologue. What? All right, so this is one page, and then they get to the actual story. What kind of book is this? Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom. So we already started the book. It's sort of like watching a TV show, and they do like the cold open and stuff. All right, here we go. Floridius Bloom awoke. He shook his head and wriggled his toes. Ah! He rolled back like 5 minutes ago. I was wriggling my toe. As always, the wiggly fluffs and monsters of gloom had invaded his dreams. Another day, another brick, he sighed, when suddenly he heard tap, tap, thunk. I'm guessing he's having a stroke. Floridius Bloom sat up. Tap, tap, plunk. Yipes, cried Floridius. Those bothersome wiggly fluffs are nibbling on my prized cherry flocks. Why did I choose this book? Floridius jumped out of bed and rushed to his garden, but he saw no wiggly fluffs. Tap, tap, clunk. So there's Floridius Bloom going to his garden looking for wiggly fluffs that are bothering him, but they're not eating his cherry flocks things. Yeah. Oh, we're going to get through this. I promise we will get through this. Next. Floridius turned. Someone had knocked some bricks out of his wall, just as I feared. The monsters of gloom have come to steal my light. Floridius ran to the wall, picked up a brick, and was about to shove it back into place when tap, tap, wunk. They're going to run out of unks by the time it goes. Ouch, shrieked Floridius. Sorry, squeaked a voice. Sorry, Floridius hobbled away as 4 more bricks went kerplunk. By the way, please notice, we talk about coincidences today. That Pui landed on the word enema for Dave's big dictionary. Look at it. Look, he's showing you his bunion. And it's aching, and you see those little rage marks. But oh my God, poor Floridius. This is his bunion watch. Look at the size and shape of that one. He's going to need corrective shoes. And there's that little thing that threw the brick at him. Sorry, Floridius hobbled away as 4 more bricks went kerplunk. One thing a peek, the little head attached to the voice said. Who are you? Cried Floridius. Zrill! Squeak. I'm hating this book. Zrill! Squeaked the voice and disappeared from the opening. Wait! Ow! You broke my toe! I was going to add the word motherfucker, but no, I'm not. I mean, good. I'm not going to do. Floridius hopped to the wall. Floridius stuck his head through the hole and watched Zrill disappear into the darkness. Just when he thought there was nothing left to see, two bright, shiny eyes stared out of the gloom. Follow! Squeaked Zrill. And for some reason, Floridius did. Limping after Zrill, teetering and tripping through the gray darkness of gloom, Floridius began to see things, because he was on certain substances. Some were tall and some were small, but all had eyes that glowed. The monsters, he cried, bumping into Zrill. You've led me straight to the monsters. And then it happened. And actually, not so much the monsters, more like the Addams family, I think. But let's see what could happen here. The monsters of gloom began to wave and smile. What is it? One of them yelled. Zrill turned, pointed at Floridius, and squeaked, broken. Aha, said the monsters. Ah. So they're all looking at them. And please note, you got to admit, so there's one who has very much of a Dr. Seussian kind of mustache there. And let's not forget the Jewish one with glasses. Again, the drawings are pretty cool. On they traveled farther and farther. Floridius began to note small gray dwellings dotting the darkness. Zrill stopped and pointed at one. Mother! He squeaked. Monster? Moaned Floridius. Mother! Squeaked Zrill, grabbing Floridius by the hand. Inside was a creature that looked just like Zrill, only much larger. You're late, she said. Oh my, it's the pizza man delivering a pizza. Go into your room, Zrill. Zrill pointed to Floridius's toe and squeaked, fix, mother? And for some reason, Floridius remembered his toe and felt a little silly because it didn't hurt as much anymore. And he looked around the room. And for some reason, he felt lonely because he's looking at all these pictures on the wall. It's interesting, like these are weird, crazy, light-eyed creatures running around in different body shapes, yet they have glasses and pictures on the wall like you would find at Michael's. It is beyond me. Mother helped Floridius to a chair. May I look, Mr. Bloom, said Floridius. Leo Bloom. Bloom, said Mother, as Zrill hopped out of the room. She lifted his foot and looked at his toe. Needs rest, Mr. Bloom. Someone to look after you. No one, replied. Oh, she's asking. You have someone who looks after you. Said no one. I need a caregiver. Ah, said Mother, looking deep into his eyes. Ah. Mother propped Floridius's feet onto a cushion, placed a blanket on his lap, and brought him a dish of warm gray mush. Oh, so he's eating at Wendy's. Better? She asked, when suddenly Zrill popped into the room. Mother fixed, he squeaked, as two more just like him popped in behind. Starlight, one squeaked to Floridius. Hurt? Awful, squeaked another. What silly notions, said Floridius. The light fills my home with cheese blooms and cherry flocks, prickle seeds, and starshines. I'm lost. And Floridius, I have a bench outside for sitting and gazing upon my star whenever I please. And friends? Mother asked. Any friends, Mr. Bloom? Me! Squeaked Zrill. Floridius Bloom opened his mouth, but for once he had nothing to say. That night, Mother brought a pile of soft cloth covers and a warm drink. She tucked him in and trilled, Sweet dreams, Mr. Bloom. And she would crawl into bed with him later and rock his... But anyway. And for the first time, Floridius did not dream of monsters. He awoke, rested, but with a slight throb in his toe. Just his toe. Stop it. Perhaps I should stay a bit longer, he thought. Floridius closed his eyes, but this time an image appeared. Not just one wiggly fluff, but hundreds of them, munching on his garden. Floridius jumped up and rushed out of the house. These are, of course, the wiggly fluffs there. Okay. A little suspiciously like the worm on Sesame Street, but we won't go there. Dashing madly across gloom, back to his wall, Floridius popped his head through the opening and stopped. His light, it seemed, almost too bright. Squinching his eyes, Floridius squeezed through the hole and made his way to the garden. He groped about, picked a blossom, held it to his nose, and sniffed. Ah, cheese bloom. Ah, cheese bloom is, of course, gloom area talk for opium. Then Floridius closed his eyes and heard silence. No wiggly fluffs, no monsters, nothing at all. Floridius was completely alone. Floridius walked back to the wall and stared into the hole. I suppose I should close it up, he said, and suddenly, out of the gray gloom, walked Zrill. Another peek, he squeaked. Floridius smiled. Floridius beamed, like a little, semi-intentional light puns here. Zrill climbed through the hole, blinking and rubbing his eyes. Finally, he walked over to Floridius. Together they turned and peered at the top of the wall. I believe my wall is complete, said Floridius. Now what am I to do? Down, 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 squeaked Zrill as he ran back to the wall. Why, yes, Floridius laughed. Take it all down, of course. Another day, another brick. All in all, it's just another... No, can't think of it. Another day, squeaked Zrill and began to climb. Wait, Zrill, where are you going? But Zrill did not answer. Tap, tap, tap. Floridius looked up, and there was Zrill waving from the top of the wall. Tap, tap, bong! Another brick, he squeaked as two more bricks went ker-plunk. Ah, said Floridius Bloom. Ah. So he's basically throwing stuff down. And when the very last brick was removed from the wall, and please understand this book was written in 2007, right? So don't even think that this is left-wing propaganda or anything like that. When the very last brick was removed from the wall, the little star's light encircled them all. Very, very cute, very nice, very heartwarming in sort of a weird, very weird, messed up way. So that, of course, was the book Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom, dedicated to Barbara Rush for believing in me, and Joseph Rush. You were right. There's nothing in the world like persistence. Dial book for young readers. Text copyright 2007 by Loriho. I mispronounced it. I'm sorry. It's not Lorio. It's Loriho Metz. Pictures by Matt Phelan. All rights are reserved. Nice, illustrations were created with pencil, ink, and watercolor. And here it is. There's a little, the story of sharing is caring. Having friends is more important than having wealth. If your wealth is one friggin' flower. If my wealth were, a mansion with a swimming pool and a yacht and Peloponnese, I'd probably have a wall. You can always build a freaking door. You don't have to take down a wall necessarily. You can just add a doorway that opens and closes so that this Zrill person can kind of come through when you want him to, as opposed to, you're sitting there, you're taking a crap, and it's like, no, Zrill, give me 10 minutes. It's a door. It's a doorbell. That's why we construct these things. It's a ring. Anyway, Floridius Bloom and the Planet of Gloom is our story for StoryTime here on Dave's Gone By. Available if you ever want to buy this thing from Dial Books, an imprint of Penguin books for the birds. Anywho, no, it was nice. Anyway, we are cute and nice here in the neighborhood on this program. Dave's Gone By. We still have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned to do. So before we get to that, let us not forget the folks who have been on this program in months and years past. We're always very proud to recognize them and figure out, hey, since they did our show, what have they been doing in life, in career, and showbiz? We call these the Friends of the Neighborhood. So anyway, I can play a little bit of that, Hunter. There we go. La-dee-doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. So, our friends in the neighborhood, we will begin with, well, let's of course begin with Joel Samberg. Joel Samberg is the author of Jackie Jester, available from Bear Manor Media. Just go on to Amazon and all the places you can get books. Get Jackie Jester, which is about his grandpa. It's a fictionalized story of his grandfather, the great Benny Bell. And if you want to get the other Benny Bell book by Joel Samberg, it's called Grandpa Had a Long One, and the Jewish Book of Lists, and Real Jewish, and Blowing in the Wind, and these other books that Joel Samberg has written. So we thank him so, so much for coming back to the neighborhood and telling us more about himself and his grandfather, Joel Samberg, Samberg. Okay, we've got more friends of the neighborhood, as well as Rabbi Sol Solomon. ShalomDammit.com is his website, of course. Want to wish congratulations to Lorraine Newman, right? Lorraine Newman getting kudos for her appearance on the SNL 50 show that happened last Saturday night. I didn't get to see it. I don't have regular television anymore, but I've heard was it her and Jane Curtin, or she walked out with someone and they held up a little picture of Gilda Radner at the very, very end of the show, which was kind of nice. Anyway, Lorraine Newman, very happy to have had her in the neighborhood, along with her sister. They did kind of a paired interview. Her sister, who was part of Compass Players, and forgive me, I'm forgetting the sister's name. That's not nice of me, but it's also Newman. She was on the show as well, and she's still doing a lot of music and stuff out on the left coast. Anyway, want to let you know that Tom Tose has a new 2-hour Spotify playlist. Tom Tose, a cabaret and theater songwriter, TOCE. So go to Spotify, and he puts together once a month like a 2-hour playlist of songs, most of which he's written with other people doing, a lot of notable cabaret and pop singer-songwriters covering his tunes, and he also always throws in a Taylor Swift song as well. So it's a Tom Tose Spotify playlist. Find them on Spotify. Want to let you know before anything else, we did have a couple of losses this week or the past week or so in the neighborhood, and I want to get to that. I'm actually going to turn off the music for this, but yeah, we got a bid farewell to a couple of people. First of all, Seattle area theater critic Misha Burson. She came on our show to talk about theater. I think maybe during, if not one of our Tony specials, just to talk about Seattle theater at a certain point. She died suddenly this past week. Very nice lady. Very good writer. Wrote for the Seattle Times, I believe, for a long time. And just a really respected theater critic out there. I'm pretty sure I knew her first from the American Theater Critics Association, and was constantly going to our weeks away in various parts of the country seeing theater. It's a loss, and so her condolences to her family. And then this one was not unexpected, but a shockeroo, especially since I didn't know it when it happened. But I've got a big farewell. Speaking of back when I was a kid, farewell to Mrs. Vatkin, Mrs. Miriam Vatkin, who was kind of a teacher and already starting to co-run Bialik School, my elementary school, when I was a sproutlet, when I was 6 to 12 years old. Mrs. Vatkin was ubiquitous. She was not the principal or the dean or vice principal, but she was up there starting to run things, and later on she did, and was identified with Bialik School for decades. I mean, when the school closed not that many years after I left and moved to Long Island and stuff, and matriculated past elementary school. But I remember Mrs. Vatkin, and I found her on Facebook through like the Bialik School alumni pages, and people were suddenly visiting. She was living in Israel, and people were going to visit her there, old alumni of Bialik School, who remembered her, who had been taught by her 40-something years earlier. would go to Jerusalem, have a meal with her, take pictures with her. And she lived a nice long life. I'm not sure how old she was, but she was certainly well into her 80s at least. And she did apparently pass in November. And what a joy it was. You can actually go back on our show and find when she called in, because I messaged her on Facebook. I wanted to wish her a happy birthday and stuff. And then she listened to the show and she called into the show one time, and we talked by phone for like 10 minutes back when the program was still on college radio, I believe. So it's just this glorious moment of hearing a voice of someone that, when I was in third grade, I'd walk into a classroom and there was the teacher who were gods, right? These were absolute shining exemplar gods to us, even the ones we didn't like or were afraid of. They were like, the teacher, right? All the command, all the power, all the knowledge. And there she was. And now here's this woman. I only wish I'd become a Steven Spielberg, was directing movies out in Hollywood and then giving her a bit part, as a thank you to her, for surviving, for being part of the school. But I got her on my show, Mrs. Vodkin. So certainly farewell. I'm sure, I think she has a couple of grandchildren, maybe a great grandchild or two. Farewell to her. I just wish we had been able to report this back in November, but she did pass. Well, yeah, okay. Who else? Well, this is not a friend of the neighborhood. I wish she was. I wish it had occurred to me to get her on the show, but we just lost a day or two ago. Not a friend of the neighborhood, but just the entertainment world lost Lynn Marie Stewart, an actress who has done a bunch of things over the years, but will always be forever remembered as Miss Yvonne from Pee-wee's Playhouse. I mean, she was in the great stage show that he did at the Roxy, which is one of the most brilliant comedic hours you're ever going to see anywhere. She was already playing the Miss Yvonne character, and then went on to Pee-wee's Playhouse on TV. I'm pretty sure she appears in the movie. She was in Pee-wee's Big Top Pee-wee and Pee-wee's Big Adventure and so forth, and back on Broadway with him when we brought the stage show to Broadway in 2010. So Pee-wee was in her life for a good 30 years, and she just did pass at the age of 78. Farewell to Lynn Marie Stewart. I always felt bad. I was like, why didn't I have someone like that on this show? Anyway, people who have been on this show and are still alive and well include someone older than Lynn Marie Stewart and Mrs. Vodkin, Marilyn May. Cabaret songstress Marilyn May is going to be appearing with Mark Ribot at Hudson Hall in New York, in Hudson, New York, and that is today, Saturday. Marilyn May is over 90. I think she might even be 95 years old, and she is still performing. She was on the Carson Show a zillion times, and she was on our program too. So go see Marilyn May if you're out in Hudson, New York tonight. Tomorrow, Stephanie Trudeau is doing a fundraising reading of her musical Becoming Chavella that is being done at the AMT Theater in Midtown. So one night only. What they're trying to do is bring it as a real full off-Broadway show and looking for investors and all that. So they're doing a reading that is happening tomorrow, I believe, in the afternoon. Also tomorrow is the Broadway musical brunch, which Scott Siegel is producing. Now, Scott, he did those ones of Broadway by the Year at Town Hall and all these different things. Now he's doing Broadway musical brunch with Carolyn Montgomery, and that is at 54 Below. Carolyn Montgomery was just on this program a couple of weeks ago as well. I want to let you know that Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano have a new CD out. It's dropping on Monday. It's called Painting the Town. So, yes, you can always also go see them, because where are they appearing? Where are they? I usually have them listed as when they're doing stuff. Well, I'm missing that. I could go find them. But anyway, Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano, their CD is called Painting the Town. It comes out on Monday. Get it wherever CDs and music are sold and or downloaded. Nancy Redmond, delightful, funny lady, is doing the comedy You Can't Teach a Fish to Whistle at the Hudson Guild Theater off Broadway. It's not just a solo. She's in this play that is starting this Thursday and running through March 2nd. You can't teach a fish to whistle with Nancy Redman. And then the White Bear Theater in Kennington in England, you can watch you can watch the play, The Value of Names, being directed by its author, Geoffrey Sweet, and that is in England now just through March 1st. Darren Lee Cole is still presenting Soho Playhouse's International Fringe Fest Encore series, playing through March 2nd. And then also through March 2nd, actor and writer Dakin Matthews. He has adapted Shakespeare's Henry IV, and it's being done by Theater for a New Audience at the Polanski Center in Brooklyn. Reminding you that Danny Burston is in Gypsy at the Majestic Theater. That's the one with Audra McDonald as Mama Rose. And then you've got Aladdin on Broadway with music by our friend Alan Menken over at the New Amsterdam Theater. Menken's music is also heard in Little Shop of Horrors, of course, in a long-running revival at the West Side Theater off Broadway. Katie Sullivan spends her Tuesday nights at the Algonquin. Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks spend their Monday evenings at Birdland, as does Jim Caruso's cast party every Monday night at Birdland. Get your tickets at birdlandjazz.com. Michael Garin plays piano at the Roxy Hotel in Tribeca. He does this Tuesdays through Saturday evenings, plus he streams it live on his Facebook page. So you can watch. I don't know if he'll take Facebook suggestions in terms of songs that he'll interpolate into his piano playing, but you can try. He'll certainly do it in person. That is Michael Garin at the Roxy Hotel. And then Evan Seplow, of course, is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. David Sheward writes theater reviews for CulturalDaily.com and my own TotalTheater.com. And he put up a couple of new off-Broadway reviews this week, including a show called Liberation, about women's liberation in the 1970s, and I'm blanking on the other one, but you definitely want to read reviews by David Sheward, our friend. Vicky Quaggy is doing theater out in Chicago, like her Late Night Catechism, which she co-wrote with Mary Pat Donovan, and Are You Smarter Than Your 8th Grade Nun? Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake review theater on their show Two on the Aisle, which you can watch on YouTube and Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Who else? Well, what can I tell you? David Kenny is still doing Everything Old is New Again Sunday evenings on WBAI Radio. And you can listen to Larry Kerwin's Celtic Crush 3 times a week on Sirius XM's The Loft channel, channel 710. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Some nice little Mozart music there here on Dave's Round. By classing up the show just a little bit before we get to our final segment of this Saturday morning, which takes the class and just brings it right to the gutter. I mean, we've had Pooey cluing us into our word of the day on Dave's Big Dictionary, which was enema. We talked about that. We talked about Benny Bell's mildly risque songs, right? We've talked about Floridius Bloom and making some jokes about him. Well, doesn't go lower than our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. This is a short poem, a 5-line piece of verse. Many people will call it a piece of something else. But I got it into my head while living in Colorado to write a poem about as many different places as I possibly could think of in Colorado, and make sure that I could use the name of the place as, you know, the main 3-time rhyme in the poem. And I just did it for fun, to do a couple of times, and then more, to the point where I now have to go onto Wikipedia and get lists of places in Colorado and places I've never heard of, places Coloradans have never heard of, places where people living in those towns don't even know the name of their own towns. They're so small, but still trying to be able to find places for limericks. And I'm still doing it, which is why we get something like today's Limerick of the Damned, Brick Center, Colorado. Yeah, go now, right? Brick Center, Colorado. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Brick Center and then read the poem.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Colorado, Rado, indeed. Here on Dave's Gone By. So, my wife essentially forced me to buy this. Thank bless her for it. This ometer that we have here to say whether the joke or whatever I'm doing is either clean or dirty. We should just leave it dirty most of the time. And in terms of whether this Colorado Limerick of the Dam for Brick Center is going to be clean or dirty, it's going to land on it's not the most X-rated or disgusting of them, but it's clean it ain't. So just an FYI, we're in the dirtier mode of the dirty cleanometer for our Limerick of the Damned, which is for Brick Center. Let me tell you a little bit about the place. It's an unincorporated community in Arapahoe County and part of the town of Bennett in northeastern Colorado, population of about 100 people. It's part of the Denver metro area and has been described as, quote, a peaceful rural neighborhood known for open spaces and wildlife, unquote. Maybe they can make a delicious possum ragu for that firehouse over that we talked about earlier. If you didn't get that joke, remember that you can watch older episodes of Dave's Gone By at davesgoneby.com and this past one so you can go back and see what you missed. Anyway, that's really all there is to say about Brick Center. It's kind of just, in one of these little bitty places that's there, unincorporated, but there's people there, and it's really part of Denver, which is an enormous and well-populated area. So Brick Center, Colorado, I have our Limerick of the Damned. I'm going to get my brick noise ready for this. On Dave's Gone By, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. I pity old... Start again. I pity old Rick from Brick Center, whose wife is a bitch and a yenter, who screams till she's hoarse, so his only recourse is twisting her pubes to torment her. If you have comments and complaints about our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, remember that you can send them along with any other material or ideas or suggestions or criticisms or comments that you want to share to me, davesgoneby@aol.com. davesgoneby@aol.com. I read everything that I get. I don't necessarily have time to answer everything. Certainly also on Facebook, when people give me thumbs up or private messages. I love to get them. Happy to read them. I'll give a thumbs up if I can. But definitely, it's the interaction with you guys that keeps me loving doing this. Also writing horrible poems like that. Kind of keeps me doing that as well. I'm sort of like Joel Samberg. I don't have that bug for writing that I did when I was a teenager and in my 20s, but when I need to, I still need to and do. So that's one way of keeping my hand in. Anyway, remember that I also have a Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2, or I guess they call it an X feed now, Radio Dave and the number 2. Plus, I've got that Instagram page, which, I ought to write it down and just, so David Lefkowitz Instagram. That's what comes up. Is this me? It's not the public figure me. Oh, wait, that is the public figure me. Hold it. It's David.Lefkowitz. David, simple as that. It's not Dave. Should have probably done it as Dave. But my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle is David.Lefkowitz. I don't have a TikTok feed at this point, not only just because we know if TikTok would survive, but just it's so much too friggin' much. But still, I literally on my nightstand for the past like 3 months, I keep reborrowing it from like a local library, is TikTok for Dummies. I'm like, how to get on there? It's going to be extra work because TikTok demands video, not just throwing up a JPEG with a little text under it. It demands like actual video content, which either then I have to slice and dice from the show or make extra content every week to say, hey, everyone watch Dave's Gone By because Joel Samberg is on, Limerick, which I should do. Whether that would get me viral, who knows at this point. It would be nice. The way for me to get viral is for you guys to just tell other folks about this program. If it's a guilty pleasure of yours, if it's a cool way to start your Saturday morning with, a bagel, a schmear, a pap schmear, if you will, and then listening to me for a half hour or an hour or almost 3 hours, wonderful. Tell other people. Say, hey, you may be interested in this. Check out this guest that he had 2 years ago. It's on his archives on the website, davesgoneby.com. Whatever it is, it's your sharing, telling, enjoying. This is what it's all about in the neighborhood. So we've really come to everything that I wanted to talk about and share with you this week. Honestly, things happen all week. I should probably carry that little notebook like Alan Alda does in that Woody Allen movie. I'm scribbling down or speaking into a tape recorder his immediate thoughts that he'll write about or speak about later. Because stuff goes through my head all week long. And I go, oh, that's 15 minutes of airtime. I need to talk about that. And then it's gone. See, what was that when we were shopping? What was it that popped into my head? What did we see? What was his name? My wife usually will try and cue me when she's taken photos of things that I did over the weekend. Then I can talk about that. So I showed you the deer. What is that? What was I? Not sure. No, it's already from a week ago. No. The good ones are on her phone. These are just some of the selfies I took. I did take is this all the way going back to the 23rd? Just so you know, we finally did pop open. I talked about this last time. I didn't think I showed this picture the last time. The Carvel cake that I got on my birthday back on January 23rd. I never got to eat it because we were going through so much, Sturm und Drang and travel and things at the time that my birthday kind of came and went and just happy to get through it. But finally, a week ago, we opened the Carvel cake. It was yummy. And I still have some in the freezer. I should finish the rest of it. But I talked about that last time. So it's been a pretty empty week. Look, here's me. How mega can you get? How mega can you get? Now let's see if it opens on and has more me's. This would be really interesting. No, it's just me doing me. There's no infinite loop like the wall of mirrors. Oh, well. Anywho, I think I look pretty good for my age. So I think that about does it, man. We're into some nicer weather. I think we're going to be saying goodbye to days in the 20s. Evenings are still going to go well under 30 degrees here in Maryland and on the East Coast. But I think we're climbing back out of this just relentless, neighborhood of gloom. If we want to refer back to the story from StoryTime, we're finally going to get some level of relief from snowstorm tomorrow, winds the next day, mostly cloudy, rain, and just again, cold and damp and ughy. What a winter it has been. But, in the middle of July, we'll forget all about it. And the middle of July is like, I could use one of those 23-degree days right about now. Maybe not. As I get older, I can use fewer and fewer. It's true. It's true what your grandparents tell you. It's true when your parents start to get older, and suddenly the thermostat being cranked to 69 doesn't really do it anymore. It's like 70. 70 was perfectly great when I was in my 40s. 70 was warm when I was in my 40s. Now it's like most of the time 71. You know. And now, literally, depending on the day, I will actually be very, very luxuriant and crank it to 72 and still have my little space heater going when I'm working because I'm 61. I'm a 61-year-old dude. It happens. Anyway, I want to give a shout out and love to my darling, adorable, and wonderful wife who is back in New York with family for a couple of days before I see her again. I might actually, I can't guarantee that I will be doing this program next Saturday. I would like to, but depending on where we are and what we're doing and so forth and all the things we're dealing with, I might have to skip a week again. I know we've been fairly sporadic about Dave's Gone By since like late in last New Year and certainly throughout January. But obviously, I'll keep you posted on the Facebook page. Obviously, I will keep you posted on davesgoneby.com. But once again, I want to thank Joel Samberg for being with us in the neighborhood. Go get his books on Amazon, including the latest one called Jackie Jester, as well as Grandpa Had a Long One, all about his grandpa, Benny Bell. Let's pull this off, shall we? Because we are finishing the 978th episode of the Dave's Gone By, Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. So come back for our 979th, whether it's next week or we skip a weekend, it's the week after. But we will keep doing it. Come on, we're going to do 1,000. You know we're going to do 1,000 of these, God willing, health willing, and all, and you guys willing too. So got to check with us week after week after week as we build to that magic number. Till then, don't miss your Dave's going by. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.
Days gone by.
All right, show's over. Now it's time to clean. I'd rather be